Good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and we're so glad to have you along for another exciting edition of The Drive on this 14th day of September. Oh, what a beautiful day it is. I mean, I spent the day out, meeting with old friends and sitting on the porch and watching the hummingbirds and just a great day.
It's a
But
good day to do that, isn't it?
It was a beautiful day to do that. And unfortunately, I had to come in and start work, and it's a good thing that I did because it's a busy news day. So much to talk about. It is Election Day in Nashville. Who will be our mayor? The polls are open until, I think 7 o'clock tonight. And so we're waiting, we'll wait to find out who is going to become the mayor of Nashville going forward. Hunter Biden has been indicted, and we'll talk about that coming up. Representative Andy Ogles will join us from the Hill at about 4:35, and as I mentioned, the response to our brand new segment, Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports, was overwhelmingly good and positive, and we will do another edition of that today. So you want to hang around. That'll be about 5:25 or so. 5:25 or so. So let's start with Hunter Biden. He has been indicted, not on anything that has to do with tax charges or anything that could lead to his dad, but he's been charged on these gun charges that were pending out there. Many people had said, look, if I'd have done the things that Hunter Biden did with regard to purchase of guns and lying on federal forms, I would have been in jail already. And he was about to skate. I mean, on July 26th, they went into court and they were prepared to do a plea bargain where he would skate on all of these charges. And now all of a sudden he faces 3 indictments that, I doubt that it will come to this, but if he were to be convicted on all these charges, and I don't see how he could be because it's very cut and dried. I don't think he'll be exonerated, but I think it is unlikely that he would serve what could be maximum of 25 years in prison. That seems unlikely. That is the maximum, but he's going to face these charges in court. Here we go. What we know: Hunter Biden indicted today on federal gun charges out of Special Counsel David Weiss's investigation. Biden is charged with making a false statement on the purchase of a firearm, making a false statement related to information required to be kept by a federal firearms licensed dealer, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user or addicted to a controlled substance. And as I mentioned, the charges come after an original plea agreement collapsed in July. Hunter Biden was expected to plead guilty in July to 2 misdemeanor tax counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax as part of a plea deal that would have him avoid jail time on a felony gun charge. Instead, the judge asked some hard questions, didn't seem to be going for the plea deal as it was laid out, thought it was too soft, and Hunter Biden was ultimately forced to plead not guilty to the 2 misdemeanor tax charges and the 1 felony gun charge. These are the first charges Weiss has brought against the first son since being granted special counsel status, this according to Fox News. Now, what is it all about? A source with knowledge of the October 23rd, 2018 police report told Fox News that it indicated that Hallie Biden, this is so twisted, who was the widow of President Biden's late son, Beau, and who was in a relationship with Hunter at the time, threw a gun owned by Hunter in a dumpster behind a market near a school. A firearm transaction report reviewed by Fox News later indicated that Hunter Biden purchased the gun earlier that month. On the firearm transaction report, Hunter Biden answered in the negative when he was asked if he was an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any controlled substance. He was a raging addict at the time. You may remember Hunter Biden was discharged from the Navy in 2014 after testing positive for cocaine. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland tapped Weiss to serve not as just an investigator or a prosecutor in the case, but a special counsel. And that gives him jurisdiction over the Hunter Biden investigation and any other issues that may come up or may have come up or may come up related to that probe. So he's got carte blanche to go anywhere he wants to. These are the first charges. He had to do something before the end of the month, or the charges, as I understand it, would have lapsed. His attorneys are apoplectic. They feel like he is being treated unfairly. I'm not sure that's the case, but that's the case that they are making. On Capitol Hill today, there was a reaction from James Comer, who's conducting the Biden syndicate investigation about all of the business dealings of Hunter Biden and how they may or may not relate to the president of the United States or when he was vice president under President Obama. Now, you might think that they would be, okay, well, finally we're getting somewhere. But what James Comer's reaction was, hey, these are not the indictments that we're interested in. He's never mentioned, as he says here, anything having to do with the gun charges. He is only interested in the tax evasion charges and all the other tax charges that might lead him and his investigation to find out whether or not we have a president who's a crook. Here's James Comer standing on the steps of Capitol Hill this morning.
We'll see what happens with the other 11 or so crimes that the president's son's committed.
It sounds like you're still expressing the skepticism here. I mean, the idea that you wanted an indictment from your perspective here. That's not enough.
An indictment for money laundering, violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, tax evasion, the list goes on and on. You've never heard me say anything about gun charges. So, again, that's the one crime he's committed that you cannot tie to Joe Biden. That was an easy charge. You've heard the IRS whistleblowers testify in the Oversight Committee as to all the tax evasion crimes. And according to the whistleblowers, Weiss, when he was the U.S. attorney, let the statute of limitations expire on some of the tax crimes, but not all the tax crimes. So I'm still holding out hope that Weiss does the right thing. This is the one charge, the least of all the dozen crimes he's committed, the one charge, the one crime that Joe Biden wasn't involved.
Suggesting there's something nefarious there, that they're trying to keep it in that lane and keep it away from your investigation?
Well, all I'm saying is the facts. This is the one crime the president's son's committed.
But that sounds like you're suggesting there's some foul play going on with how they're handling these.
I don't know what. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just stating the obvious. This is the one crime he committed that you can't tie Joe Biden into.
So do you think it has any impact on the impeachment inquiry at all?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. It really doesn't relate to the impeachment. And I think we need to, remember that the House Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, the Ways and Means Committees, and the House, they're conducting an investigation really aimed not at Hunter Biden, but at the President of the United States. And was there a pay for play? Was there a quid pro quo? Is our president a crook? Is what they're trying to figure out. Now, Hunter Biden is all tied up in that. But as Comer has said, we don't care one whit about Hunter Biden. What we care about is whether or not there's been something in the form of corruption that has occurred, either when he was Vice President Biden, or later when he became President Biden, or maybe in the times in between. Hunter Biden had business dealings with some of the most unbelievably corrupt bunch of business thugs that you can find around the world. If there was a business thug out there, Hunter Biden was doing business with them, and they set up 20 shell companies, and money was being funneled from these very questionable business dealings. They were so questionable that there were nearly 100 suspicious activity reports that were filed on what was going on. And the question is, okay, we know that money went from Hunter Biden from these business associates to the various shell companies, and then from the shell companies, they went to the bank accounts of various members of the Biden family. Was there anything that ended up in the hands of Joe Biden? That is the real question. That is the question that will be investigated going forward. And I want to make sure. Yeah, here it is. This is the latest on that. Comer says he has a lead on tracing $10 million bribe that Biden allegedly accepted. The payment. This is from the Washington Examiner. The payment was the one documented on an FBI-generated FD 1023 form, which, we've talked about a great deal. He said, we do have leads, we believe, and suspect there were offshore accounts. Now, Comer has stopped short of saying that they've been able to trace it directly, but they believe that they're on the right track with this. It fits a pattern that they've seen in other countries. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith also said that he believes that these whistleblowers and all the information that have been gathered there could be very helpful in that investigation. But that is not what happened today. Make sure that we're very clear here. This has nothing to do with the tax issues. This has nothing to do with the transfer of money. This has nothing to do with potential sending of money to the then vice president or current president for doing certain favors for Hunter Biden's clients. None of that. That all is still being investigated, and but this is about the gun charge and the gun charge only. Some people think that there could be a scenario going because Joe Biden cares so deeply about his son and family members that he might try to pardon his son, maybe even proactively or preemptively. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about that a few weeks back, and boy, she shot that down pretty quick.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
No, she said. But of course, she's been wrong before. She doesn't really have a good finger on the pulse of what the president will or will not do. And many times she's had to backtrack. And so, it was a quick way to dispose of the question, but I'm not sure that it really is the fact of the matter. They may well try to do that. And that would be political suicide, which suggests that perhaps on the way out the door, some people wonder, will Biden fall on his political sword? Will he pardon his son and himself and then walk away? I don't think that's likely to happen, but I would not take what Karine Jean-Pierre has said here as a definitive answer when asked, well, would he consider pardoning his son?
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
No. The president, for his part of it, has not spoken a great deal about the gun matter, but it did come up in an interview last October.
By the way, this thing about a gun, I didn't know anything about it, but it turns out that when he made my application to purchase a gun, what happened was I guess you get asked the question, are you on drugs, you use drugs? He said no. And he wrote about saying no in his book. So I've great confidence in my son.
Well, you may have confidence in your son, but Mr. President, with all due respect, just writing about a fact does not absolve you of any criminal prosecution. It's almost as if the president, well, he told everybody that he did it. Well, okay, that's what you call a confession. I mean, now all they have to do, this is such an open and shut case. All they have to do is go into court and produce the book. And there you have a conviction. You can't wiggle out of it. So he could do some time in the Gray Bar Hotel. Will he do 25 years, which is the maximum? Probably not. Will there be another plea deal? Remains to be seen. But today, Hunter Biden was indicted on 3 gun-related charges. What else will come down the path? We don't know. But at least this will happen, and it looks like there's going to be some serious legal problems for the son of the President of the United States. 21 minutes past the hour. Let's talk about King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood. They've been around for over 25 years as an independent agency, and that is a real good thing for you. I mean, first of all, as an independent agency, they're small enough to make sure that they give you good customer service. Here's an example, just a small example. When you call this number, 615-329-8121, you won't reach a call center. You won't get a recording that says, well, please stand by. Your call is important to us. You're not going to be bounced around on some phone tree. You're actually going to talk to a real human being. They will answer the phone every time. And then another great reason why having an independent agency is a good thing, they can find an insurance policy that will actually fit your exact needs. I mean, they can shop around, they can throw away some that don't quite fit. They're not going to try to do like the other big insurance companies do, the ones that you deal with on the internet only. They're not going to try to put a square peg in a round hole. They'll find something that really fits you, and that's in your interest as well. Listen, you need to understand that there's a great way here to really save money. It's called a multi-policy discount. By bundling, you can save 20, 25, 30, even 35%. Huge savings. So listen, forget all this stuff about give us 15 minutes and we'll change your life. It takes more than 15 minutes, and you're going to get your royal review at King & Associates simply by logging on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, you'll get royal treatment and unbelievably good rates.
Hunter Biden indicted on gun charges, a possible explosive device found at a business in Tennessee, and what Governor Lee's thoughts are on COVID and mask mandates. That and more coming up. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
There's Mac Morey in the newsroom, and Chris Weber is in the control room, and it's time to go to the swamp. We got news out of the swamp. You know, so many times when there is a big story breaking out of Washington, they don't expect you to be looking for other things. My instinct is always, okay, big stories breaking in Washington. Let's look and see what else they're trying to hope that we don't pay attention to. And I've got two examples of that right here in today's Swamp Report. There is a letter that has been sent to the Director of Central Intelligence. His name is William J. Burns. He's the director of the CIA. And here we go. You have to understand that the United States government was tasked with the responsibility, and everybody, they told the military, they told the intelligence community, they told the health people, they asked everybody to go back and look at exactly where did COVID-19 come from? What was the source of it? I mean, Anthony Fauci has tried to make you believe at times that it came from, one animal to another. And somehow it, is what as the old joke go, a penguin kissed a dolphin and something happened. We don't know. But most people have long believed, or coming around to the belief, I guess is the better way to put it, that it came out of the laboratory in Wuhan, China. And the military and all these different departments within government were asked to make an assessment of what they thought and what they thought about where it came from. Now comes this. You ready? This is a letter from Capitol Hill Republicans and the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee to the director of the CIA. Quote, a multi-decade senior-level current agency officer has come forward, a whistleblower, to provide information to the committees regarding the CIA's analysis into the origins of COVID-19. According to the whistleblower, the agency assigned 7 officers to a COVID discovery team. The team consisted of multidisciplinary and experienced officers with significant scientific expertise. According to the whistleblower, at the end of the review, 6 of the 7 members of the team believed the intelligence and science were sufficient to make a low-confidence assessment that COVID-19 originated from a laboratory in Wuhan, China. The 7th member of the team, who also happened to be the most senior, was the lone officer to believe that COVID-19 originated through zoonosis. That's that it came from the animal world. The whistleblower further contends that to come to the eventual public determination of uncertainty, which is where they ended the whole thing, we're uncertain, they said, the other 6 members were given a significant monetary incentive to change their positions. In other words, 6 out of 7 said it probably came from the laboratory in Wuhan, China. One other person said no, it probably came through zoonosis. And the whistleblower now says that these 6 members who said it probably came from Wuhan, China, were given a significant monetary incentive, a bribe basically, to change their position. Now that's the allegation, and it comes, from a whistleblower within the intelligence community. And now, unbelievable, this story, the various committees on Capitol Hill controlled by Republicans are starting to ask the questions. They've asked for all documents and communications, and they're trying to get it at whether or not this really did happen. Were 6 members bribed to come up with a different viewpoint than what they originally came up with? I think the military was on board as saying it was likely from Wuhan. And the intelligence community came in and said, no, we're just uncertain. We can't really make a determination. Why did they change their mind when 6 out of 7 said it probably came from the Wuhan Institute and then they said, well, it's uncertain. I don't want to divert from my swamp report except to mention, while we're talking about COVID, that Governor Lee has said that no COVID mandates will be in place in the state of Tennessee as COVID cases might start to rise. Government does not need to tell people how to live their lives with regards to their personal health, according to Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. Getting back to the swamp, here's another story that the Democrats are hoping that you don't see. Border Patrol email, they plan to release illegal border crossers from crowded facilities. They're so full, they're just going to release them. 31 minutes now past the hour.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 81 degrees, a sunny day in Nashville. Expecting a lot of the same the rest of this week. Saturday has the chance for some showers. Got traffic and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has been indicted by Trump-appointed special counsel David Weiss on 3 felony gun charges. The charges are related to giving false statements and illegal possession of a firearm. Aaron Katersky on Hunter Biden's possible defense.
Attorney has recently pointed to a decision that came down in a federal appeals court recently that said drug use alone should not be disqualifying as a prerequisite for owning a gun. And so the defense thinks they may have something to stand on if they take this case to trial.
The indictments carry a maximum penalty of up to 25 years in prison. Explosives in Tennessee. Channel 4 reports that a potentially explosive device was found at a Crossville business this morning. The device was an old mortar, and officials don't know where it came from. And the Knoxville Bomb Squad currently assessing and neutralizing the device. And right now, staying in Tennessee, Governor Lee making one thing clear with COVID cases on the rise: there will be no mask or vaccine mandates.
We learned in the last one that the government does not need to tell people how to live their lives with regard to their own personal health. Those are decisions that they need to make, and that's the way it'll be going forward.
The new boosters expected in health departments and pharmacies as soon as this week. That's the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, it's still a little early, but if you're thinking about going out for dinner tonight, why don't you go to a Legend Steakhouse near you? I'm telling you, if you haven't been to a Legend Steakhouse, you don't know what you're missing. Johnny Fleeman has got a bunch of them all over the place. If you want to find out where they are, go to legendsteakhouse.com. And here's the thing. Dinner, great idea. But you might want to also think about them going forward for lunch. You see, they have a great meat and two situation going at your Legend Steakhouse. 2 country cooked meats. I mean, you get a meat and then 2 country cooked vegetables or casseroles. The meats: fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy, and then 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes, potato casseroles, black-eyed peas. Listen, it's like the cooking you got at home with Mom. And in fact, the truth is these recipes all came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed them over 30 years ago, and, well, he just never gave them back. There are multiple locations across Middle Tennessee, good food at a fair price. If you're in Davidson County, check out their Smyrna location just off Almaville Road, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Legend Steakhouse, been around for 34 years. You're going to love your next visit to Legend Steakhouse. "39 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Busy news day. Just as if you've just got into your vehicle and getting ready to drive home, Hunter Biden's been indicted on 3 gun charges. None of it touches the investigation into whether or not there was pay to play in the by Vice President or President Biden. It's a separate matter, but at least there is some movement on that matter. And it is election day in Nashville. You've got until 7 o'clock to get to the polls. I want you to do that. And look, I said yesterday, if you are among those who are dissatisfied with what's happening in Davidson County, Nashville, and I know there are many people who are, I would say to you, this is an opportunity, because I've looked at the numbers, and if there was a big turnout in favor of Alice Rowley, we could perhaps put a Republican in there or a conservative in there. I mean, the numbers, it could work. I mean, it will take a tremendous turnout, and I don't know that we're going to get it, but you know, if you like what's been going on, then go ahead and vote for Freddie, Mr. Peabody, and if you think there's time for a change, then Alice Rowley is your person. And the numbers, not a tremendous early voting number. I think it could he could be beaten, and it's a rare thing for me to say that, because generally I don't think the numbers add up that way, but I think they could. So let's remember that as you head home. If you're in Davidson County, Nashville, you've got until 7 o'clock to get in and cast your ballot. On Capitol Hill right now, as I discussed with you yesterday, Republicans are fighting among themselves. And this is not a good thing. It seems to be led primarily by Matt Gaetz, and he took to the floor and tried to suggest that the speaker was not doing some of the things that he had promised. And Matt Gaetz says that, if he does not try to do some of the things that were promised, that he will try to take a vote to vacate the chair. In other words, to kick the speaker out, and they'd have to have another election. Here is what he said the other day.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair. We have had no vote on term limits or on balanced budgets as the agreement demanded and required. There's been no full release of the January 6 tapes as you promised. There has been insufficient accountability for the Biden crime family, and instead of cutting spending to raise the debt limit, you relied on budgetary gimmicks and rescissions so that you ultimately ended up serving as the valet to underwrite Biden's debt and advance his spending agenda. Mr. Speaker, you boasted in January that we would use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse. But here we are, 8 months later, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden.
Well, the fact of the matter is, on the Hunter Biden matter, it is not time to send the subpoena to Hunter Biden. James Comer is in charge of that investigation, and he is properly doing it by getting all the facts. You don't bring in the principal subject of the investigation until you have all the facts. And so, with all due respect to Matt Gaetz, he's wrong about that. And I turn to James Comer, who says, we'll get to the point where we'll call him in, but we're not there yet. We need more bank records. We need to have it locked up. He's right. You want to have an unassailable case laid out before you would ever bring Hunter Biden in for a question and answer session. By the way, all you're going to get from Hunter Biden is he's going to plead the fifth. So I would say that that's the one thing. When it comes to budget matters, well, we're about to have a budget showdown that could close the entire government. So I don't think that McCarthy is shying away from that. And as for the January 6th tapes, he did make an announcement to release them to a number of news organizations and some outside groups. So I don't know. The thing about Gaetz is Gaetz wants what he wants when he wants it. And it's not that any of these things are being ignored by McCarthy, but McCarthy has to walk a tightrope, man. Understand that the difficult position that this speaker is in. I think McCarthy's doing a pretty good job. Honestly, I do. But I'm going to give you an example of what kind of job he does. You ready? And then I'll tell you why I think Gaetz and McCarthy, how this thing's going to end up. McCarthy, this is an example of how effective he can be. He's being questioned in the hallway by a reporter saying, how come, do you really think that there's anything there that suggests that President Biden has acted improperly? And remember, he's launched an impeachment inquiry, which is not an impeachment process. It's the beginning of the investigation. Listen how deftly, how remarkably well McCarthy does in taking this reporter and putting that reporter in her place.
Congressman Issa came out and said that both Chairman Jordan and Comer were not able to present anything that was an impeachable offense at this point. Is that an assessment that you share?
Impeachment inquiry is not impeachment. So what impeachment inquiry is to do is to get answers to questions. Are you concerned about all the stuff that was just recently learned? Do you have any concern? Have you asked the White House any questions?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe the president lied to the American public when he said he'd never talked to his son about business dealings? Yes or no? It's all right. You can't answer that? Do you believe when they said the president went on conference calls? Do you believe that happened?
That's what the testimony
Okay.
says.
Do you believe the president went to Cafe Milano and had dinner with the clients of Hunter Biden, who believes he got those clients because he was selling the brand?
That's what the testimony
Okay. Do you believe Hunter Biden, when you saw the video of him driving a Porsche, that he got $143,000 to buy that Porsche the next day? Do you believe the $3 million from the Russian oligarch that was transferred to the shell companies that the Bidens controlled after the dinner from Cafe Milano took place?
for the testimony.
Okay, then I go back. Do you think the president lied when he
Is that
said
an impeachable? Is lying an impeachable?
Well, you want to know. I'm not saying impeachment. All I'm saying is I would like to know answers to these questions. The American public ought to know, and that's what impeachment inquiry provides.
I mean, boom! Just put that reporter right in her place. So Matt Gaetz, he wants things done quickly, he wants things done on his schedule. The problem for McCarthy is he's walking a tightrope. He can't lose 5 conservative votes or the Democrats win. He cannot lose 5 moderate votes or the Democrats win. He has to, it's like herding cats. It's an incredibly difficult job, and he has to walk the line and, by the way, make a decision, based on the evidence at the moment. Now, he's not ignoring the things that Gaetz has raised. It's just that Gaetz seems to think he should go further, faster, is the way I read it. Well, they got behind closed doors, and the Speaker of the House came out forcefully against Gaetz and others who are challenging his authority, more or less daring them to carry out their threat to hold votes to oust him as Speaker. According to many sources who were in the room, and by the way, Andy Ogles was probably there. He'll join us at 4:35. We'll get his take on how that all went down. McCarthy told the GOP lawmakers behind closed doors, "You guys think I'm scared of a motion to vacate? Go ahead and effing do it." McCarthy apparently got a standing ovation for taking that stance. Speaking to reporters after the conference, McCarthy said that he had showed frustration because he was frustrated with some people in the conference over recent roadblocks. He laughed if he would share his exact language, and he said, "I will not do that." McCarthy laid out a plan to move forward on spending bills, a short-term deal, but we could face a close down. There's a whole lot of things that are going on, but McCarthy is standing in the well and telling the small number of dissidents, and they are people like Gaetz and the like, that, you know what, you think you can take me down, give it a try. I don't think, Matt, as I said yesterday, I don't think Matt Gaetz has got the votes. But you should not underestimate the difficult position that McCarthy is in trying to hold together a Republican conference that is at war with itself. There are moderates in places like California and Colorado and other states. Remember, they are Republicans, but they're from moderate purple states. They can't go as far as some of their conservative members, like Gaetz from Florida, would like them to go. And McCarthy has to walk that tightrope. It's like walking a tightrope, herding cats, and juggling all at the same time. So, look, I caught some flack the other day from saying that I thought that Gaetz was out of line. I like Matt Gaetz. I think he's a good congressman, and I know him a little, and I think he's doing a great job. But on this one, I have to say, I think McCarthy has the more difficult task, and it's easy to sit at the other side and lob, stones at the Speaker of the House and to threaten to oust him as Speaker, but you got to have the votes. As they say in politics, you don't go after the king unless you can kill the king, and it seems like to me McCarthy's in pretty good shape here. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Well, let's talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Dr. Kevin Mitchell over there has has been doing good work to help people feel better. And if you got pain in your arms, legs, your back, your neck, this is the place to go. Just call and set up an appointment, 615-246-5009. Now, let me share something that's very important to Dr. Mitchell, a way to show your patriotism through the flying of the grand old flag. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is putting American flags back into our cities and towns with a thing called the Patriot Way Project, and already the Wellness Institute is responsible for having flown over 75 brand new flags. Donate at thepatriotwayproject.com. That's patriotwayproject.com. Or just come by and see them at their space-age high-tech facility in Mount Juliet. They want you to know that when you visit the facility for spinal or knee treatments or any of the things that you might be having trouble with, you're dealing with a company that gives back to our communities. So come see them and tell your friends, family, and loved ones about the Patriot Way Project. Learn more by going to patriotwayproject.com. It's the Wellness Institute of Nashville, 615-246-5009. Learn more about all the things they can do to make you feel better by going to their website, painisbad.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Election day in Nashville. Hunter Biden indicted on gun charges, a small plane crash today in Tennessee, and a possible strike looming for the United Auto Workers. Those stories and more coming up at 4 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Very quickly, oil prices are going up again. West Texas Intermediate up at $90 a barrel. Brent crude at $94 a barrel, and that's something to watch. But the market looked good today. Dow Jones Industrial up 331, S&P up 37, NASDAQ up 112. John Maxon is standing by from Beacon Capital Management. John, what's driving the market today?
Yeah, today, Brian, it's all about retail sales. We got the inflation number yesterday that came in hot in the Consumer Price Index. That was actually followed up today by the Producer Price Index that showed a pretty good increase for the month of August on wholesale prices. And you're exactly right. Oil is something to watch. That fact that crude oil is over $90 a barrel just happened today. That influenced that number. But it was retail sales that rose 0.6%, which was a dramatic increase and beat the estimates by quite a bit. That the market really liked that today, and as we get towards the end of the week and into next week, I think what you're going to see is the Fed may pause interest rates, but I don't think they're going to call a peak, and energy is definitely going to play a big part of that moving forward.
All right, John, thank you very much. Learn about all the things they can do for you at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Hey, if you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co. are the two guys you need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind, and that is the Stoltz Co. difference. Now, you can use pole barns for a lot of things. It can function as a classic tool or work barn, a garage, even a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of the time. They do not scrimp on quality. They do not cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So why don't you go to their website, stoltzco.com. That's STOLTZCO.com. and take a look at some of the examples they have on display there. You're going to find out very quickly this ain't your grandpappy's pole barn. 615-622-5992. Learn more at stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com.
.401, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 81 degrees on Music Row. And it's runoff election day in Nashville. Voters to decide whether Alice Rowley or Freddie O'Connell will be the next mayor. Nearly 70,000 people voted early in several Metro Council positions, 8 to be precise, and a new State House representative will also be filled. Polls across the county will be open from 7 to 7. This could affect some traffic as well. Got a complete weather and traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has been indicted by Trump-appointed special counsel David Weiss on 3 felony gun charges. The charges are related to giving false statements and illegal possession of a firearm. Pierre Thomas says it comes after a recent plea agreement with Weiss imploded.
Hunter Biden is seeing the consequences of that plea deal falling apart. It's in tatters, and today he stands indicted on 3 felony counts. And it all stems from the fact that he was addicted to crack cocaine. According to prosecutors, at one point in 2018, he was using crack cocaine every 15 minutes. And later that year, they claimed that he walked into a gun store in Delaware and filled out a form to buy a Colt revolver. And in that form, he stated that he was not a user of drugs, that he was not addicted to any kind of narcotics. That was not true.
The maximum sentence that Hunter Biden could receive would be 25 years for those charges. Right now in Middle Tennessee, a small plane crashed in rural Giles County this afternoon. Authorities said it crashed near Vito Road, which is near the Alabama and Tennessee state line. And it's unknown at this time where the plane departed from. No injuries have been reported. And it would be a historic strike if it happens. The big three American automakers have just a few hours left to hammer out a deal with the United Auto Workers. Mike Dubusky is on the ground in Detroit with the very latest.
It's all quiet for now outside UAW headquarters, but time is ticking for the union to hammer out a deal with the big three American automakers. The union is demanding double-digit pay raises and more robust benefits, which they see as proportional to the profits GM, Ford, and Stellantis have raked in recent years. Automakers argue those demands are unrealistic and would put them at a disadvantage to competitors that don't have labor union forces.
In crime in Tennessee, a nurse in Laverne has been indicted, according to News 2. TBI, through investigation, learned that 49-year-old Laurel Beth Gallion stole hydrocodone that was intended for a patient. Gallion was arrested on August 24th and booked into jail on a $5,000 bond. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good afternoon. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air for another 3 hours as we bring you news and information you can use on this 14th day of September, Election Day in Nashville. There are a number of races still to be decided. Nashville wants to know whether it's going to be Freddie O'Connell or Alice Rowley as their mayor going forward. I will say this, I'm going to miss Mayor Munchkin. I really am.
Still can't say that, Brian.
I know, but I mean, it's the last, we're getting down to the last days, and I know I'm not supposed to call him that. The mayor that was formerly known as Mayor Munchkin.
Thank you.
He's been, all I asked for, over the past years has been a mayor that I could openly mock. And in Nashville, you've been so good to me in that regard ever since I got here. But now, look, serious things going on in Nashville. I would simply say, if you like what's going on in Nashville, then you should vote for Freddie O'Connell, because that's the status quo. And if you don't like what's going on in Nashville, although I don't live in the city, I care about the city, and we all consider the center core of our area to be a city that we relate to. And if you're not happy with what's going on there, then maybe you want to try something different. Elections will close. I mean, the polls will close at about 7 o'clock tonight. And I understand voting has been light today. It's about 68,000 people have cast their ballots in early voting in Nashville. So that's going on. If you are just getting into your car, you may not be aware that Hunter Biden has been indicted, not on anything related to an investigation that might lead to his father, nothing about the business dealings overseas, etc. This all has to do with those gun charges. Listen, this is an open and shut case. If there ever was one, this is an open and shut case. 3 indictments, if convicted and given the maximum penalties, which is not likely, but nonetheless, he could serve 25 years if convicted and given the maximum penalties. So that's going on right now. The investigation does not in any way touch the probe into Hunter Biden's business dealings and whether or not our president is a crook. So those things are going on today. I also want to mention that at 4:35 here in about 25 or so minutes, we'll have Representative Andy Ogles as our special guest. And then at 5:25 or so, the people have spoken. They were wildly supportive of Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports, our new segment. And that will happen about 5:25 today. A lot of things going on. Now, time to turn and talk about politics for a while. Here is our 2024 update for the day. I told you yesterday, and I'll repeat it in case you happen to miss it. There is a poll, an Emerson poll that came out that showed that Donald Trump is like 50 points ahead of his nearest opponent for the Republican primary. Now, that's really not the way we go about primaries. We go state to state, etc. But the polls show, Trump way out ahead of DeSantis, who's in number 2. I think it's 62 points for Trump, 12 for DeSantis, so an even 50 points ahead. And I don't know how you make that up. I really don't know how anybody could overcome that. Suggests that Republicans are very strongly leaning toward renominating Donald Trump to run against whoever runs. Now, the question is, who's he going to run against? Because, we told you yesterday that there was a whole host of people that are now beginning to come out and publicly say, maybe you should not run again, Mr. President. Or maybe some people believe that it's time for him to ditch his running mate. The thing that really caught most people's attention today was an op-ed piece in the Washington Post written by David Ignatius. There's not a more liberal columnist in all of Washington than Ignatius. He's been around a long, long time. And he basically, said that we think, Mr. President, and he did it nicely. He's a Democrat. We're talking to Democrats here. And they're talking among themselves, and he did it nicely, saying, here are all your accomplishments, here are all the wonderful things you've done, but now maybe your time on the stage is over. He spoke on MSNBC last night.
What I say in the column is he has a moment now where he ought to think about whether he should say no to himself about this fundamental question of running again. There's strong feeling in the country, it's bipartisan, that when he takes office at 82, he's too old to serve a 4-year term. 77% of people in an AP poll said that. 69% of Democrats said that. The president needs to think carefully about that, and if he decides that they're wrong, that he wants to go forward, just be clear in his own mind and then clear with the country in saying it straight up.
Well, listen, I think, honestly, this is more than a nudge that is starting to happen. From the Washington Examiner, it's the worst kept secret in Washington. Joe Biden, too old to be president. His increasing senility cannot be hidden from the public any longer. Recent polling indicates that more than 2/3 of Democrats believe Biden is too elderly to serve another term in the Oval Office. The problem Democrats face is who to replace Biden with. Vice President Kamala Harris may be much younger, but she's even less popular than Biden. Any Republican opponent could easily defeat Harris, who apparently can't get through an interview without awkward laughter. The Democrat bench looking at 2024 is weak, thanks to years of devastating local and state-level setbacks during Barack Obama's presidency, in which liberals ignored but then deeply regret now. It's only a matter of time before a major liberal pundit came forward, and that was David Ignatius. Finally, Ignatius states the obvious: Joe is too old, adding acidically, Biden's age isn't just a Fox News trope. It's been the subject of dinner table conversations across America this summer. For decades, Ignatius has cultivated a close relationship with the intelligence community, particularly the Central Intelligence Agency. It's common knowledge in spook circles, when they say spook, they mean spy circles, that Ignatius has long served as an unofficial CIA spokesman. His post columns form a better guide to what's happening out at Langley than official CIA press releases. When Ignatius comments on intelligence matters, as he frequently does, it is often Langley's leadership, what the CIA calls the seventh floor, that is actually doing the talking. It's an open secret in Washington. Ignatius also writes spy novels, many of which are thinly veiled retellings of real-life actual espionage operations that were presumably told him by CIA. And so, therefore, Ignatius perhaps isn't just speaking for himself with his latest post column. He may be speaking on behalf of the intelligence community. I don't know. It'll be interesting. For all the question is the deep state also, through Ignatius, sending a message to Joe Biden that now is the time to retire? Interesting question. Interesting question. Calls to drop Kamala Harris in 2024 are growing. This from townhall.com. Oh, yeah, I got to play these Nancy Pelosi bites. Nancy Pelosi was talking about Kamala Harris. And she's doing these interviews, making the rounds, and she's asked a question about, well, do you think that Kamala Harris is doing a great job? How do you feel about Kamala Harris?
President Kamala Harris the best running mate for this president?
He thinks so, and that's what matters. And by the way,
you think so?
She's very politically astute. I don't think people give her enough credit. She's, of course, values-based, consistent with the president's values and the rest. And people don't understand she's politically astute. Why would she be vice president if she were not? But when she was running for attorney general in California, she had 6% in the polls. 6% in the polls. And she politically astutely made her case about why she would be good, did her politics, and became attorney general. So people shouldn't underestimate what Kamala Harris brings to the table.
But do you think she is the best running mate, though?
She's the vice president of the United States. So when people say to me, well, why isn't she doing this or that? I said, because she's the vice president. That's the job description. You don't do that much. You're a source of strength, inspiration, intellectual resource, and the rest. I think she's represented our country very well at home and abroad.
What a bunch of... I mean, she is dodging this whole question about, why would she be vice president if she couldn't do all these things? Well, she became vice president because Joe Biden picked her. When you look at what's going on in a presidency, or when somebody's running for the office of the presidency, the first major chance that you get to judge a person's level of judgment is who they pick for their running mate. And he chose Kamala Harris. Turned out to be a disastrous pick. And then the question became, well, Nancy, do you think there's any chance that Joe Biden will not run?
Do you think there's any chance he does not continue running?
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, this president...
David Ignatius recently came out saying he thinks the former president should not run.
Yeah, so that's one.
Oh, God. I had forgotten how much I hate this part.
That's one.
Nancy Pelosi. Oh, my.
What a ridiculous clown show.
So here you go. Any word on the street is that word on the street is Democrats quietly admit that Joe Biden is too old. One would guess that a healthy number believe that Harris is unqualified for her job. Several columnists have written pieces about it, dumping Harris, which is something to consider, albeit in an academic exercise only. Many people say, well, okay, there may be people who say it'd be a good idea to dump Harris as your running mate, but there is some blowback that will happen within Democratic circles. I mean, do you improve your situation? No, I don't think you do. So I think the situation then becomes, how do you then manage this? Well, if Joe Biden were to change his running mate, he'd have to get rid of Harris in a way that made it look like it wasn't a demotion. And to me, there's only one position that could come open that would be viewed as not a demotion. And that would be if we had one of the Democrat members of the Supreme Court, one of the liberal members of the Supreme Court, decide that they wanted to retire, and then the president would nominate Kamala Harris for it. I don't see that happening. I don't know that that's going to happen, but that would be one way you could solve the problem. Make your own, put it in the Supreme Court, then you pick somebody else to run with. The thought be, I'll stay in the race, but I will at least be able to tell people I've got somebody as my vice presidential running mate, whoever that is, I don't know, who is more competent and could carry on should something happen to me. I mean, when you're old like Biden, that's the thing you got to look at. Who's his running mate? His running mate is a disaster. Not good. Manchin, Joe Manchin, will probably ditch the Democrats if he stays in politics at all. A story in the Daily Caller, and a report that Manchin had a meeting with Bill Clinton to talk about what he should do. I don't understand why he would go there, but he did. And apparently the meeting was not planned. He heard that Clinton was in the area, and he asked, can we get together? And so the question is, what did Bubba tell Joe Manchin about running as a third-party candidate? 21 past the hour now. Do you have a problem with your plumbing or maybe with your air conditioning system? I mean, tonight is going to get down into the 50s, I think. Maybe you need to start thinking about your heater as well. Well, if you got a problem with any of those systems, you need to call the folks I would call Busy Bee, 615-775-7833. If you ever have questions about your service, there's a wonderful thing about Busy Bee. You call the office and you ask to speak to the owners, and you'll get an owner, either William or Brandon. They will get on the phone and take care of you. You want to become a member of the Beehive Club, 3 thorough maintenance services, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing, no overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833. That's 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hunter Biden indicted, a fatal crash in Tennessee, and today's money news. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and we're so glad that you're with us here at 425. Mac Maury, I know you're there in the newsroom, and I just want to say again, yesterday's edition of it was our debut report for Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports, and it was a bona fide fan favorite.
Yes.
Got nothing but positive feedback about it.
And there's the fan feedback. Right there.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. Heck yes.
So we're gonna make this a regular feature here. I'll tell you. I heard. Did you hear what Matt Murphy said about it? He said he thought it was great.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what was that guy?
I thought you were listening to that. But it's Matt.
Exactly. I kind of just
take that with a grain of salt.
But I was I had to come downtown this morning for a meeting. My my agent is in town. There's a big radio seminar in town. Did you know that?
That's what I've heard.
Yep.
Yeah. Big radio seminar, and a lot of talk radio people from all over the country have come in, and they're doing this down at one of the hotels. And so my agent comes in for that session, and so my agent's name is Cohen the Barbarian.
Wow. All right.
She's scary.
We know what to expect out of her, don't we?
She's mean and tough. I call her Cohen the Barbarian.
Does she carry a big sword?
She doesn't
need one.
No. When my agent speaks, managers in the radio business tremble. That's what I want you to know.
Nice.
Yeah. She's she's actually a lovely person. I went down to have a meeting with her, and then I got, when you come in from Watertown in the morning, right? You're coming in on I-40, you have to leave a lot of slop time if you're going to be on time. So, you either show up on time or you show up way early. And I am one of these people. I am so, I don't know if I could say that word, but I'm meticulous about being on time. I hate to be late. I hate other people to be standing around and waiting on me. To me, being late is like, one of the rudest things you can do, because what it says to people is, my time is more important than your time. If you make people stand around and wait on you, it's a very selfish action where people who can't be on time, I think. My daddy said, you always show up on time, or you show up early, actually.
You're either early or you're late.
Yeah, and if my dad said you better be somewhere at a certain time, you better be at somewhere at a certain time, or you'd be walking. And that's the way that went. It was just drilled into me, and I get there early, and I'm about 40 minutes early for this meeting. And so but you know what? You have a bad moment on the interstate, and that 40 minutes can evaporate.
Absolutely.
So I always leave uber early. And so I get down there and I decide, well, I'm going to go into the station, and I'll say hello to Dan Mandis and Johnny and Ken. I miss Ken a lot. Ken and Chris and I worked together, for how many years? I don't know, before we moved to the afternoons.
Yep.
And I really missed him, and I wanted to go in there and hug his neck, and so I went in and did that. He's a hairy little guy. And then I walked in to talk to Dan, and Dan said the same thing. A long story to come back full circle to say, Dan Mandis also loved Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports. Gave it a thumbs up. Said, I loved it. I thought it was great. So that'll happen at 5:20.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and so we're going to be talking about quarterbacks.
Ooh, nice professional tease.
And two teams that need quarterbacks right now. And Max looked at me and said, what, two teams? I thought there was just one.
Okay.
Yeah, well, talking about the New York Jets, of course.
Yes.
And the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh, shots fired.
Don't want to miss that. It's now 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 81 degrees, a sunny day on Music Row. Expecting a sunny Friday, some possible showers on Saturday. with those clear skies returning on Sunday. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has been indicted by Trump-appointed special counsel David Weiss on 3 felony gun charges. The charges are related to giving false statements and illegal possession of a firearm. Jonathan Karl says neither side of the political aisle is happy.
There's some real bitterness on the part of a lot of advocates for Hunter Biden, his legal team, saying he is being prosecuted in this case solely because of his last name. And at the same time, the reaction from Republicans is, this is nothing.
Fatal crash in Tennessee. News 2 says that 2 people have died today in a crash on 840 westbound. It was out in Wilson County near mile marker 69, and it happened just before 1 o'clock today. And that left lane and left shoulder have since reopened. And now over to some money news. Chuck Sievertson fills us in with what happened today on Wall Street.
Strong gains by the major indexes at the Thursday close. The Dow up 332 points. The broader S&P 500 added 38 and the Nasdaq up 112. This after reports suggesting the U.S. economy is still humming, though inflation may also be. Some of the strongest action was in the bond market, where Treasury yields swung up, down, and back again following reports on U.S. retail sales, inflation, and unemployment. Chip designer ARM Holdings rallied in its public debut. One report said U.S. shoppers spent more at retailers last month than economists expected. Such spending has been a linchpin for the economy, but it could also encourage retailers to keep trying to raise prices further. Another report from the Labor Department said fewer workers applied for unemployment benefits last week than expected, which implies the number of layoffs remains low. A third report said prices at the wholesale level rose more last month than economists expected. That could be discouraging as far as inflation and interest rates go.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
So here's a question for you. The last time you were at an auto repair shop, did you think that it was stinky? Well, I mean, smelly, greasy old rags laying around, a countertop that you would not dare touch. Another thing that stinks is that many repair shops keep your car forever, and they're not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience at a vehicle repair shop? Well, it's your buddy Brian Wilson to tell you about Eurofix. Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. You're not going to face any high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And you will never pay dealer prices. The Eurofix can be found. I mean, look at all these locations. There's one near you. Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now their newest facility in Mount Juliet, right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Just call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com, and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you. 37 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air on this Thursday, the 14th day of September. We'll go straight to the Newsmaker hotline. Representative Andy Ogles is on the phone from the nation's capital. Andy, always good to have you on the show today. I got a lot of questions to ask you.
Well, it's good to be with you. Thank you.
All right, let's start off with today's news about Hunter Biden. He has been indicted on 3 gun charges. Nothing really that relates to the investigation that they're conducting on Capitol Hill into his business dealings and whether or not we have a president that's a crook. But your reaction to the fact that Hunter Biden now apparently will face 3 gun charges that, if he was convicted and given the maximum penalties, would put him in prison for 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, and so what's interesting, and I think people are beginning to realize, we clearly have a 2-tier justice system, and so what's happened is, the walls are closing in on the Biden family, but that's because conservatives like me and conservatives like Jim Jordan, we just won't stop. We keep fighting, we keep pushing, and what it's doing, it's boxing in this prosecutor or this district attorney. And so, but what you're going to see, I think, is, and this is a prediction, and so I know it's not specific to the gun charge, but even Nancy Pelosi, she was on Anderson Cooper, was talking about the fact that, when asked whether or not Biden was going to be the nominee, she hedged. And so the walls are closing in on the Biden family. But look, he purchased a Colt Cobra revolver. He said he wasn't on drugs, but he was. He carried a firearm with under the influence of cocaine, both of which are crimes. And look, Donald Trump was accused of something, and you immediately saw mugshots, right? The only pictures we have of Hunter Biden are with oligarchs, Russian oligarchs, prostitutes, and with cocaine. And so, again, you see this 2-tier justice system. And so that's why, kudos to Comer with oversight and Jim Jordan with judiciary for not letting up, the pedal to the metal, and really trying to hold this family accountable. Because if you and I did a fraction of the things that Hunter Biden has done or the president has done, we'd both be in jail.
Well, I think I agree with you. I think most Americans, it's a pretty open shut case. I mean, he sort of confessed to doing all of this in a book that he wrote. So, all you got to do is bring him in and lay out the book, and you've got it.
Well, and there's photographic evidence, where he took pictures and selfies, and really and truly, like if that were you or if that were myself, and we did those things and we took those selfies, the FBI, the ATF would jerk us out of bed at 3 a.m. It would be open and shut. But because he's a Biden and he's had this wall of protection around him. Now, look, the powers that be do want Biden to be in the White House again because he is so disengaged, I'll be polite. They have a lot of control over policy in this country, right? But if you get another person, if you got a Gavin Newsom, of course he said it's not going to be him, then you don't necessarily have that same level of control. Now I'll make a prediction that who they're going to supplant Biden with is with Michelle Obama.
Okay, well, I'm glad you raised that because I want to let me hold on to that. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Okay, now. On the floor of the House the other day, Matt Gaetz of Florida said the following.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role.
All right, so that's a pretty hard shot across the Speaker's bow. The Speaker, I understand, went behind closed doors with Republicans and said, if you want to try to vacate the chair, then I'll clean it up a little bit. Then you go ahead and try to do that. Yeah. So where are you? Are you with Gaetz?
How it was said.
Well, I know, but this is a family show. So
that's right.
Who are you with on this? Are you with Gaetz, who says, you're out of compliance and we should vacate the chair? Or do you support Speaker McCarthy to continue in that role?
All right, so keep in mind, he hedges a little bit about talking about bringing you into compliance, and so we're currently we're debating the DoD defense appropriations. We have this talk of a continuing resolution, and quite frankly, there is going to be a shutdown. I'll make that's going to happen. The question is for how many days? And so
right.
what this does is create that leverage point of, look, when you think back to the speaker's fight, we agreed to a spending level, right? The conservatives, we pushed and we drove and we picked a number, or we got everybody to agree to a number. We have now surpassed that number. One of the things we fought for is the REINS Act, which is regulatory reform. As you see, all of these alphabet agencies controlling our lives, right? So the REINS Act, we were promised that. That didn't happen. You had the quote-unquote the five families. The five families, for your audience, are the five factions within the Republican caucus, the Freedom Caucus being one of them. The five families, we came together, we negotiated the Limit, Save, Grow piece of legislation, which was a decent piece of legislation. That didn't pass. Instead, over a holiday weekend, the leadership negotiated the FRA, the fiscal, what I call the Irresponsibility Act. And so all of these promises have been made, and quite frankly, most of them have not been delivered from a conservative standpoint. And so what we're doing is currently, and this is a good segue into the continuing resolution in DOD.
Wait. I ask you a specific question. Who are you supporting in this matter? Are you supporting Gates, who says that the speaker has not done enough, or are you supporting the speaker who says if you want to try to vacate the chair, then go ahead and give it a try?
Well, so two things. His comments, which there were cuss words involved in it, came from an emotional place, and I think in both of their cases, there's kind of this back and forth going on. I'm not going to get into the middle of that, but what I will say.
Well, no. I mean, but
hold on. Let me finish.
You might have to vote on it.
Well, I don't think it's going to come to that. In fact, I'm almost confident. Now, if I hear differently or if I think differently, I'll let you know. But what Gates is doing, Matt Gates is a friend of mine. He's actually coming to Nashville on Saturday. We're going to be together on Saturday. So that being said, we're trying to hold leadership, and it's not just McCarthy, but leadership accountable to the promises that are made. Look, we're heading into a government shutdown. And the consequences of that, if we don't proceed the way we should as fiscal conservatives, is not good for the country. And so what we're going to do is fight for this fiscal conservatism. So I would agree with Matt that some of the promises that have been made haven't been delivered. We have time to fix that. As far as your
Matt
question
were to
about
take
McCarthy,
to the floor today and say, I want to call for a vote to vacate the chair,
that's premature.
How would you vote?
It's premature. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
All right, so you think you're not going to answer the question, basically?
No. What I'm saying is no. I would not support that today because it's premature.
All right, you wouldn't support it today because it's premature. All right, thanks
right.
for that. Now, go ahead and make your larger point. I'm sorry.
No, totally fine. I mean, hey, that's your job. Now you look forward to the continuing resolution. So what you have is this week we were supposed to vote on defense appropriations. It's about 60% of the spending that we've got to get through, give or take, right? And we conservatives held out. Now look, we are for funding our military. We are funding this when we pass it, and we will pass it. It's going to have a pay raise for our enlisted soldiers. Quite frankly, it'll be a historic pay raise for our soldiers. But what we're doing is making sure that what passes takes out some of the wokeness that is infesting our military. What we're making sure happens is that we also pass, or if we pass a continuing resolution, that we also secure our border. And I put out a press release today saying, look, if we don't secure our border, there is no more funding. We're shutting it down. I was just at the southern border. Literally, our government has cut sections of the fence out roughly every, and I'm going to ballpark it here, roughly every quarter mile. So if you go to Arizona, you go south to the border, you've got miles and miles and miles of fence. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent on that wall, and our government has cut out sections. And I literally was able to walk into Mexico unfettered. I was able to walk around. Cartel spotters were on the hills. As I would walk into Mexico, they would pop up in the hills. And I was able to walk back into our country, and no one was around other than the cartel to watch me.
Wow, that's shocking. You want to go back to the Michelle Obama thing. You believe that ultimately Joe Biden will be ditched or will decide not to run, one or the other, and you believe that the nominee will ultimately be Michelle Obama. Tell me why.
Well, so there's a couple of things, and this kind of goes back to what Comer's doing in oversight and what Jim Jordan is doing in judiciary. Now that you have the prosecution now going after Hunter Biden, is he's going to cut a deal with his own party. He's going to have an exit strategy. And quite frankly, his polling numbers are historic lows. Kamala Harris's numbers, Biden's numbers are better than Kamala's. So that's saying something. He's literally has some of the worst polling numbers in recent modern history. That being said, so who is out there on the Democrat side that could put together a grassroots army and a fundraising mechanism that you could mount a presidential campaign in just a few short months? Who could unify their base? And there's one person that checks all those boxes, and that's Michelle Obama. Now, obviously, don't know Michelle. I can't speak for Michelle. I certainly would not support any Obama, quite frankly. But that being said, is that's what I predict is about to happen. And now you even have Nancy Pelosi, who is going to be in the know, if you will, hedging that Biden may not be the nominee. And so it would not surprise me that on his way out the door that he is pardoning his family and his son, and there's a golden parachute there for his family. And look, that's totally logical, but again, if you're the powers that be that are controlling Biden and quite frankly running the country, you're going to want to keep him in power. So it'll be interesting to unfold. And I will say there are some kind of artificial deadlines out there because to qualify for, I do believe it's the Nevada caucus, that deadline is in October. So I think you're going to have to start seeing someone making a move, I would think, relatively soon.
Yeah, I agree that time is running out, but I want to take issue, though. I'll make you a friendly wager.
Okay.
that I don't. I think you're right. I think that it will not be Joe Biden, but I'm pretty sure. My gut feeling tells me it's not going to be Michelle Obama. Because when I covered the Obama administration in Washington when I was there, it was universally the general sense was that she hated every moment she was in the White House, and she wasn't shy about telling anybody about it. She detested being in the White House. She swore she would never step back in the White House, and to my knowledge, I don't know that she has. So I'm just sort of curious, if it's not Michelle Obama, whom it might be, but I'm willing to make a friendly wager that it won't be Michelle Obama. What do you say?
Well, sure, absolutely. But I will say, they still have a residence here in D.C., and I do believe the Obamas are the only kind of presidential family that's remained or had close ties to D.C. the way they have relative to the Bush or the Clintons or anybody else. And so, that's kind of the devil's advocate. You've had Gavin Newsom say that it's not going to be him. Kamala, if you're Kamala Harris, you want it to be you. You have Gretchen Whitmer out there.
That's not going to work, yeah. And
that's right. Only Whitmer, you and I know who she is, right? But
yeah,
so,
right.
And so they don't have a deep bench when it comes to who has that national profile. Now, if you're a political consultant and you're consulting the Democrats, the person that could probably save your party would be Kennedy because he can run up the middle, if you will, but they'll never choose someone like him because he's not as woke and not as radical, which is saying a lot, as kind of the squad is.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And you're right. I think we are getting close to the point where if there's going to be a change made, it's got to be made. Well, listen, Andy, it's Congressman Ogles. It's always good to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us. Please come back anytime.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it very much. And I will say, I'll forewarn everybody, there's going to be a fight over the budget. There is going to be a shutdown of the government. But that being said, if the government's shut down for a few days, it's just a pause. You're still going to get your Social Security checks. Our veterans are going to still get paid their benefits. All of those things are still going to happen. But meanwhile, we're fighting. We're fighting to secure this border and keep fentanyl and illegals out of our country.
All right, Andy Ogles. It's 51 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market.
Let me tell you, if I could, about the folks over at Grace Point Healthcare. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. I want to really tout you on the idea of a smart care plan. Start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. Think about that. Unlimited office visits and free basic labs. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. You add this to a highly deductible insurance plan that you may have, you could save you and your family a lot of money. Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. No long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point wants you to know they believe in freedom of choice when it comes to vaccines for you and your children. So, Grace Point Healthcare. Go take a visit, Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
How you faring in this rough and tumble market? Well, the experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be really scary. But here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are. Are you on track for retirement, or do you need to make some mid-course corrections? Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? I mean, Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a phone call. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. They'll ask you some questions, and they'll give you their best assessment. What do you have to lose except for all the worry? So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path as you have the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Again, that number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at beaconcapitalmanagement.com.
Five o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 81 degrees on Music Row. We've got a complete weather forecast and the latest traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles joined WTN's The Drive with Brian Wilson and discussed the latest federal indictments handed down to President Biden's son, Hunter Biden.
He purchased a Colt Cobra revolver. He said he wasn't on drugs, but he was. He carried a firearm with under the influence of cocaine, both of which are crimes. And look, Donald Trump was accused of something, and you immediately saw mugshots, right? The only pictures we have of Hunter Biden are with oligarchs, Russian oligarchs, prostitutes, and with cocaine.
And Ogles mentioned the photographic evidence to go along with it, making it even more concrete. And when asked about whether or not he would support Representative Matt Gaetz in a vote to vacate House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's chair, Ogles responded with, quote, "It's premature." And the congressman also said that a government shutdown, quote, is going to happen. The question is for how long. January 6th arrest. News 2 says that a Coffee County man was arrested for his alleged role in the Capitol riots that happened 2 years ago. 56-year-old Alan Jennings of Hillsborough attended a Stop the Seal rally near the Washington Monument before later entering the Capitol. Footage shows Jennings chasing retreating police, offering with officers with other rioters. Body cam footage shows Jennings pulling out what looked like a knife while pursuing the officer. Since the events on January 6th, more than 1,100 people have been charged in nearly all 50 states, including nearly 400 people charged with assaulting or impeding law enforcement, which is a felony crime. And we're learning more about what the potential auto workers' strike could look like. Mike Dubusky is at UAW headquarters in Detroit.
UAW workers say they're prepared to walk off the job at GM, Ford, and Stellantis, which would mark the first time the union has ordered a strike against the Big Three simultaneously. UAW President Shawn Fain says they're planning to have some workers walk off the job while others continue working under the expired contract, thus giving the strike fund a longer life. The automakers say the union's demands are unrealistic.
In a Georgia election interference case update, a judge today decided former President Trump and 16 of his co-defendants will stand trial separately from 2 others in the state 2020 election interference case. A win for Trump and other defendants who are trying to push out when they were slated to go to trial. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
We got to come up with a way to Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes and change past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. The polls close here in a little less than 2 hours in Nashville. If you haven't voted, still time to get by the polls in Nashville and cast your ballot. I guess Dan Mandis will have a rundown tomorrow on all of the results because the polls close at 7, and then, we'll find out who's going to be the mayor for Nashville. There's a bunch of other particular races that are also to be decided here. So it's not just that, but that's the one I think most people are focused on right now. So again, polls close at 7. They had a little problem at one polling place where the electricity went out for a couple of hours. For a while, they were working on battery backup, and then they got the polls back open with full shore power, as they say, at about 1 o'clock today. So we're waiting for those results to be tabulated tonight and to find out who will be the mayor of Nashville. Will it be Freddie O'Connell or will it be Alice Rowley? From my perspective, let me just say, I would like to see you vote for Rowley because I think, like many people, even though I don't live in Nashville, if you live in the area, let me just say this. When you go somewhere, and people say, where are you from? You say, well, I'm from Nashville. Well, I don't live in Nashville. I live in Watertown. But you tell people that you live in Nashville because we work and we play in Nashville. And even if we don't live in Davidson County, we consider Nashville sort of the hub of our area. And so if you're among those in Davidson County who can actually vote in this matter, and you feel like things are not going the way that you would like them to go, then maybe it's time for a change. And, is it possible? It's hard for a Republican to win in Davidson County, given the demographics. But if everybody showed up who felt that things aren't going quite the way they should, there could be an upset. So, again, the polls are open till 7. You vote the way you want to vote. But I just think that many people feel like it's not going the way they want it to go. And maybe it's time for a change. My personal opinion being offered on this election day. Okay, 9 minutes now past the hour. The other big story had to do with what's going on with the Hunter Biden matter. There are 3 federal indictments that have been handed down against Hunter Biden. I guess you say handed up. Hunter Biden indicted Thursday on federal gun charges by special counsel David Weiss as a part of his ongoing investigation. Biden was charged with making a false statement in the purchase of a firearm, making a false statement related to information required to be kept by a federal firearms licensed dealer, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. The charge comes after an original plea agreement collapsed in July. That's right. What was it? It was July 26th. They went into court on July 26th, and the sweetheart plea deal was all ready to go, and it would have probably gone through had it not been for the judge who said, you know what, this doesn't seem in keeping with other things that I have seen and similar charges, and is he going to be continued to be under investigation? And Weiss said, well, yeah, he could be. And then Hunter Biden's attorney said, well, no, this is supposed to end the deal, and there'll be no more prosecution against him. And it just came unraveled in a way that nobody expected after the judge sort of said, wait a minute, is this really what's going to happen? This doesn't seem right. Well, thank goodness for that judge, because the whole thing fell apart. And then in the interim time, they made David Weiss not just a federal prosecutor from the state of Delaware. They made him a special counsel. So he then has the freedom to come back and rework the deal. And I think generally, the sweetheart deal that was worked out, well, they just basically got caught red-handed, and they realized, we can't do this. We can't let this guy off with a rap on the knuckles. So here come these 3 indictments on the gun charges. Now, what does it mean? Well, it means that if he goes to trial and if he is convicted, and by the way, some of these charges are open and closed. I mean, if there's ever been an open and closed case, it's this one. You've got the document. You've got all of the stuff that's on Hunter Biden's laptop that talks about how he was under the influence of drugs. You've got pictures of him with the weapon, and by the way, I think another weapon as well, which is not a revolver. And he actually wrote about it in his book. I mean, the president of the United States sort of made that point when he was speaking last year about it. I mean, talk about an admission against interest.
By the way, this thing about a gun, I didn't know anything about it, but turns out that when he made my application to purchase a gun, what happened was I guess you get asked, you get asked the question, are you on drugs, you use drugs? He said no. And he wrote about saying no in his book. So I have great confidence in my son.
Well, you may have great confidence, and you may think that because he wrote about it, well, that's all you need to do. You just need to make an admission, and you are. I mean, think about that. You commit a crime, and you just go out there and write a book, and you say, "Yeah, I committed a crime. Now I'm off the hook," right? I mean, that seems to be what the president is suggesting. So, no. This is, if there ever was an open and shut case, it's this one, because he admits that he basically said no on the form, and we all know the man was strung out on cocaine, and there's all kinds of evidence to suggest this is an open and shut case. There will be a conviction. The question is, how many years will he serve? If he were convicted and was given the maximum penalties, 25 years in prison. Now, I don't think he's going to get 25 years, but I do think you're going to get a situation where he probably does some jail time. Today, the president was out talking about Bidenomics. He didn't talk at all about this. I actually wonder if this happened while he was on his way to it's a county just outside of Washington, D.C. in suburban Maryland called Prince George's County. And he was over there to do a big speech about Bidenomics, and he seemed to be in a chipper mood, and he seemed to be, cutting up and carrying on and smiling and yucking it up. I don't think they told him. Because I think that if they told him, they figured it would derail him, and they wanted the message to be about Bidenomics. But I'll bet you $1 to a donut that he didn't know anything about it until after that speech was delivered. James Comer wants you to know one thing, that this particular indictment has no impact on their inquiry. And in fact, he wants to point out that this is the one charge that they could bring that would not in any way implicate the current president of the United States.
We'll see what happens with the other 11 or so crimes that the president's son's committed.
It sounds like you're still expressing the skepticism here. I mean, the idea that you wanted an indictment from your perspective here, that's not enough?
An indictment for money laundering, violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, tax evasion, the list goes on and on. You've never heard me say anything about gun charges. So, again, that's the one crime he's committed that you cannot tie to Joe Biden. That was an easy charge. You've heard the IRS whistleblowers testify in the Oversight Committee as to all the tax evasion crimes. And according to the whistleblowers, Weiss, when he was the U.S. attorney, let the statute of limitations expire on some of the tax crimes, but not all the tax crimes. So I'm still holding out hope that Weiss does the right thing. This is the one charge, the least of all the dozen crimes he's committed, the one charge, the one crime that Joe Biden wasn't
suggesting there's something nefarious there, that they're trying to keep it in that lane and keep it away from your investigation?
Well, all I'm saying is the facts. This is the one crime the president's son's committed.
But that sounds like you're suggesting there's some foul play going on with how they're handling these.
I don't know I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just stating the obvious. This is the one crime he committed that you can't tie Joe Biden into.
So do you think it has any impact on the impeachment inquiry at all?
Absolutely not.
None whatsoever. And by the way, let's be honest about it. James Comer in the House Oversight Committee and Jim Jordan and the Judiciary Committee and the committee that the Ways and Means Committee, they're all conducting investigations. They're not really after Hunter Biden. They look at Hunter Biden as the person who was running the business, but the business was Joe Biden. I mean, basically, Hunter was the salesman for the Joe Biden brand, and he was out there making money over it all over the world. This, the gun charge, I don't know, maybe you can use it as leverage. Okay, we'll go away. The gun charge will go away if you'll turn on the old man. I don't imagine that's going to happen. I think Hunter Biden will do some time in prison on these charges because I think it's an open and shut case, and I think the investigation continues. Comer is not investigating Hunter Biden. He's investigating Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, and some things that happened back when he was vice president of the United States. And the real question is was he a crook? Was he taking payoffs to get certain actions on behalf of the government? And the big one that they're focused on right now, of course, is this Ukrainian prosecutor who was fired in exchange for the $1 billion in loan guarantees. That is what they're zeroing in on, and that's what they're going to be focused on. And James Comer really doesn't care one whit about this, but nonetheless, I think a lot of us across America did care about it. We cared about it because, we sort of operate under the sneaking suspicion that if we had done the same thing, we would already be in jail. This happened. I mean, this investigation's been going on for 5 years, and this gun, as I've heard many prosecutors say, this is about the easiest case you could ever have. You can get a conviction on this case. I don't care how good the defense attorneys are. When you've admitted it in your book, it's pretty much means that, you're going to have a problem. He's not going to skate on these charges. And it took 5 years to get there. But I think I'm sort of glad that we did get there. Now, one other remaining question. It would be possible for Joe Biden to pardon his son. I don't imagine he would do that if he's still running for election. I mean, if they can push this beyond the election and Joe Biden gets beaten, then here's what I guarantee you. Joe Biden will pardon his son and all of his business partners and himself on the way out the door. But when asked about this, Karine Jean-Pierre was very, very definitive.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No. No, not one chance at all. Now, Karine is often wrong. She probably did a snap answer to that just to get rid of the question, and I doubt that she had any conversation with the president about it. But nonetheless, she is on record saying, no, it won't happen. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Something awesome is coming to Genesis Diamonds next weekend, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th of September. It's a 3-day designer engagement ring event showcasing the world's 2 top brands in bridal jewelry, Tacori and Verragio. Tacori from California, Verragio from New York, both flying in their entire lines, including all new rings for this special event. You can explore hundreds of exquisite American-made designer rings. Plus, Genesis will have special incentives, zero interest financing, and up to $5,000 in instant savings. In addition, Genesis has an expanded selection of GIA certified diamonds for this 3-day event. All shapes, all sizes, rock-bottom prices. This is the best of the best. Every Tacori ring, handcrafted by master artisans with exceptional quality. Every Verragio ring made by hand with unmatched attention to detail. These are brands other jewelers only wish they could offer, but at Genesis they will have the entire Tacori and Verragio collections on hand, and they'll all be on display. Don't miss the bridal jewelry event of the year, September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
President Biden speaks about his economic policy, a plane crash in Tennessee, a possible auto workers strike looming as well. I'll have those stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock, and I am just excited I have so much anticipation here because yesterday we debuted a new segment, and quite frankly, if it had gone badly, I think we would have never mentioned it again. but it went pretty well. And now it's time for
spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right, it's time for Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports. Here is the host of our program, Mac Morey.
Hello.
That's right. This is a news talk station. But sometimes, I think that there's one or two good stories out there that have to do with sports that we want to get into, and so here it is. Wait, I love him. Got to wait for the stinger. Here we are, Mac Morey. Today we're going to talk about a football team that is in dire need of a quarterback. I think there are two. I think one of them is, of course, the New York Jets, and I think the other one may be the Tennessee Titans. But let's set that aside for a moment. Let's talk about the New York Jets. And, they lost Aaron Rodgers. He's out for the season. It may be a career-ending injury. Where are they going to turn, Mac Morey?
So, you've got the New York Jets who have been touted as the Super Bowl contender. They've spent money in all the right places. They've got all of these young studs, and they anchored it with a vet quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who will no doubt be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. And 4 plays in, the season's over, his Achilles popped, and now they need someone to still hold those hopes high and maybe have a chance at hoisting the Lombardi Trophy and breaking their longest playoff drought in the NFL. 12 years they have not been to the playoffs. So
you've got a situation there then where you need a world-class quarterback. Where do you turn? I mean, they're just not out there growing on trees.
Exactly. You're just not going to be able to get one. And so you've got to just maybe see if you can get someone who can just stand in there and get the ball down the field. So lots of names are being, thrown up. Tom Brady, maybe Tom Brady comes back. Oh, what if they go get Joe Flacco? What if they go get all of these old names that were really relevant 5-10 years ago? But then someone in that vein who was relevant maybe 5-10 years ago comes into the headlines and hasn't even played football in 7 years. Colin Kaepernick. News comes out about his agents.
Him again?
Yeah, I know. His agents reaching out to the New York Jets, which makes sense because no one's reaching out to Colin Kaepernick to come play football. And the reason may be, politics aside, you can agree with whatever happened with him. It really is irrelevant at this point because it's been 7 seasons since he's played football. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's 35. And just to age myself a bit here, guys, I hadn't even graduated high school the last time Colin Kaepernick played football, just to really set it in.
Wow.
That's where we're
really
at.
Not saying all that much, but go ahead.
But either way, this is just kind of a ridiculous conversation that's happening right now on, could Colin Kaepernick come back? And I think people don't realize this is the hardest position to play, not in football, but arguably in all of sports. It's not just something where you can come back in 7 years later, not having touched a field, and go play professional football at any sort of competitive level. I think if you're talking about this on social media, you're trying to get some clicks. I think that's where it's at.
Maybe that's true. But if not Kaepernick, I mean, where actually do you find a world-class quarterback to come in and take over? I mean, do you just go with your backup quarterback and try to make the best of the season? I mean, I don't think he looked that bad.
Yeah, Zach Wilson, he's pretty rough. He was the 2nd overall pick out of BYU a couple years ago. And man, the thing about Zach Wilson, he's got a lot of raw talent. He can throw the ball 65 yards. He can got a little athleticism, get out the pocket. But he's going to make a lot of mistakes. And the Jets can't afford that. Sure, their defense is great. They could get the ball back. But if they can just have someone go in there, get some first downs, go get 3 points, occasionally 6, the defense and those running backs and a couple of nice wide receivers making plays with yards after the catch with the ball in their hands can make it happen. I think if I'm the Jets, I'm trying to find a Chad Henne, an Andy Dalton, one of these, just older guys who can come in, understand an offensive system right off the bat, and just say, okay, I'm going to go get us 20 points today. It's not going to be 30. It's not going to be 40. It's not going to be pretty, but we're going to go get 20 points, and I'm going to let the team do the work.
What? Here, let me throw out. You said Tom Brady. Now it would be tempting, right?
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Tom Brady says he's done, but I mean that was before this big position came open. What about Peyton Manning, for example?
Yeah, similar vein. I would love it from a Vols perspective. Obviously, I went to UT, so I would be all about it. But yeah,
he's been off the field too long.
Yeah,
too.
way too long, and he's past 40 now. And the last time we saw him throw a football, it looked like his shoulder was about to tear off every time he tried to attempt to pass. So I'm not there yet.
All right. So, and again, just to bring this thing full circle, what about the Titans and can Tannehill get it together?
Brian, that's a great question. This is kind of a put up or shut up moment. These next few weeks are going to be really telling. I think the leash is not long with Ryan Tannehill. I don't think it's next week, but if we're talking this same thing in a month, Brian, I think he's done. I think they're going to have to sit Tannehill because this team's good enough to win some games. And frankly, if they lose, if they start 0-3, 0-4, the schedule's not easy off the bat. Then you just got to say, you know what? We've got two young guys sitting at quarterback, second and third string, and Malik Willis and Will Levis. Let's see what we've got for the future. That would be what the Titans should do if Ryan Tannehill can't get it together, which, fingers crossed, let's go this weekend.
Let's hope it didn't.
Get it back. Come on.
All right. Well, and on that, we conclude today's edition of The Wide World of Sports with Mac Morey. Good job, everybody. I mean, great work.
Thank you.
It is 31 minutes now past the hour.
.531, I am Mac Morey with your top stories. 80 degrees in Nashville, complete weather forecast, and a latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. President Biden touted his economic agenda in a speech at a community college in Maryland today as he seeks to turn around voters' impressions of his handling of the economy. Elizabeth Schulze has more from Washington.
Amid a fight over government spending and a possible shutdown looming at the end of the month, President Biden is making the case for his economic proposals, drawing a contrast with Republicans in Congress.
For all the time they spend attacking me and my plan, here's what they never do. They never talk about what they want to do.
Biden said his agenda is working to bolster the middle class, boost manufacturing, and create jobs, but admitted there is still work to do.
Right now in Middle Tennessee, a small plane crashed in rural Giles County this afternoon. Authorities said it was near Vito Road, which is close to the Alabama and Tennessee state line, and it's unknown at this time where the plane departed from. There are no injuries that have been reported. And it would be a historic strike if it happens. The big three American automakers have just a few hours left to hammer out a deal. Less than a few hours now with the United Auto Workers. Mike Dubusky on the ground.
It's all quiet for now outside UAW headquarters, but time is ticking for the union to hammer out a deal with the big three American automakers. The union is demanding double-digit pay raises and more robust benefits, which they see as proportional to the profits GM, Ford, and Stellantis have raked in recent years. Automakers argue those demands are unrealistic and would put them at a disadvantage to competitors that don't have labor union forces.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me tell you about assistedfamilycare.com. And let me ask you a question. I mean, maybe the last time you were together with a bunch of family members and you looked at some of the elderly members of your family and you realized, oh my gosh, they're really getting up there. And now they are starting to struggle with the things that were once so easy. You know, the day-to-day things that they once were able to handle, without any problem at all. Now they're struggling. And you realize they are approaching an age where they're going to need more help. And you're trying to figure out what you want to do there. How can you do that? You're busy. You've got your family. You've got a busy job. And maybe even you don't even live near them. So what do? Well, you turn to Assisted Family Care. They will connect you with a responsible, compatible, compassionate helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. Now, separate from that, if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover those kinds of expenses. You see, many veterans are eligible to receive up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost to them. Not everyone is eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you may well qualify for the benefit for yourself or for your spouse. The application process is daunting and it is confusing, but Assisted Family Care can help cut through all of the red tape and help veterans that are eligible to receive this benefit get it. So Assisted Family Care can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com, 615-833-9725. "39 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on this 14th day of September. You got, a little less than an hour, an hour and a half left before the polls close. I had to do math in my head.
About an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, about an hour and 20 minutes. So, if you're driving home and you haven't voted in Davidson County, or if you have, there are other polls that are open as well, now's the time to get at it. All right. Let's see. I guess we're going to, I didn't ask you, but we'll just call this a swamp. I didn't give you the heads up that I was going to do a swamp report. Oh, my goodness. You are so fast. I can't believe that. Welcome. We're going to go to the swamp again and talk about all the stuff that's going on there and the muck and the guck and the goo. You know, I'm not afraid to tell you, what's going on there and try to help you understand. I mean, I spent 31 years there. You would think I might know a little something about it. So here we go. This story, you may have, I think Chris was talking about this morning. And it really is something to consider. Let me explain a little bit about what happened when COVID happened. The government decided we need to figure out, how this happened, and we need to figure out, where it came from. We need so they tasked a bunch of different people within government. Some of them, at HHS. Some of them in the military. We have military people who have a great deal of expertise in some of this stuff, and believe it or not, in the intelligence community. And the idea was each group would come back with a report on where do you think COVID came from. And I think the only organization that came back with any kind of confidence at all about saying that it came from the lab in Wuhan was the military. If my memory serves me correct, I believe I'm right about that. And then the intelligence community, they put out a report that said, well, we're not sure. We just can't decide. Now comes this, a letter from the Hill. This is from the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and from the chairman of the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, and it's Brad Winstrup, to the director of the CIA. Now listen to this, okay? Because this is really troubling. They say, look, we have a multi-decade senior level current agency officer who has come forward to provide information to the committees regarding the CIA's analysis into the origin of COVID-19. A whistleblower, if you will. And according to this whistleblower, the agency assigned 7 officers to a COVID discovery team. Yeah, like remember, everybody's doing their own independent investigation, even the CIA. The team consisted of multidisciplinary and experienced officers with significant scientific expertise. According to the whistleblower, at the end of its review, 6 out of 7 members of the team believed the intelligence and the science were sufficient to make a low-confidence assessment that COVID-19 originated from a lab in Wuhan, China. The virology lab. The 7th member of the team, who also happened to be the most senior, was the lone officer at the CIA to believe that COVID originated through zoonosis, which means animal-to-animal contact. The whistleblower further contends that to come to the eventual public determination that they were uncertain, 6 members of that committee that were asked to task this at the CIA were given a significant monetary incentive to change their position. What? Unbelievable that could happen. Now, again, it's a whistleblower complaint, but they're saying basically you had 6 members of the committee who said Wuhan, China, the lab. You had 1 member of the committee who said it came from animal-to-animal transfer. And the ultimate outcome of their investigation was we're uncertain. And the allegation is that the 6 members who had said we thought it was from Wuhan were given a lot of money to change their position. The letter continues. These allegations from a seemingly credible source requires the committee to conduct further oversight into how the CIA handled its internal investigation into the origins of COVID. To assist the committees with their investigation, we request the following documents. And they go through and they say, we want documents, we want communications, we want emails. And so the investigation is on. And it goes on to say the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic is authorized to investigate the origins of the coronavirus pandemic, including but not limited to the federal government's funding of gain-of-function research, and executive branch policies, deliberations, decisions, activities, and internal and external communications. If this is true, if they can back up, I mean, all you got to do is call in the 6 members of the committee who came in and said, well, our initial report was this, but yes, we did change. And yes, and the question, well, did you get bribed to do it? I mean, they probably won't make that admission against their own interest, but nonetheless, call them in, ask them what happened. This whistleblower really, quite frankly, has brought forth a troubling allegation that, if true, raises many, many questions about it. Now, look, I think most people look at the situation and they say, look, what is the likelihood that the thing started in Wuhan, and that it started in a market nearby? No, the market, I think, is a cover story. Most people now believe that they were really trying to cover up the fact that the United States, through its various means, was paying the virology lab in Wuhan, China, to conduct gain-of-function research. It's beginning to look like that. And honestly, think about it. This could be one of the great stories of all times if you can prove it. If you can prove it. And I think that they've got to follow this down. They got to run it to ground and find out exactly what's going on there. Because what are the chances that it didn't come from this lab? I mean, they were doing bat virology and this came from a bat, it appears. And it just seems to me, just common sense tells you it came from the Wuhan lab. Chris Hand is very good on this issue, by the way. I heard him. He's really knowledgeable about it. And if you get a chance to listen to Chris Hand in the morning, he's really on fire about this issue. You might want to listen in. Other news from the swamp. I told you the other day about Matt Gaetz being challenging the Speaker of the House and suggesting that things aren't happening the way I want them to happen. And so I think it's time for us to maybe try to oust the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role.
And so he went on to say that I'm going to call for a motion to vacate the chair if you don't start moving the way I want you to move. And, there was a closed-door meeting on today up on Capitol Hill. Kevin McCarthy called in all of the Republican members of the House behind closed doors and apparently said in no uncertain terms, I'm going to have to clean this up a little bit, suggesting to those who have criticism of him, if you want to file a motion to vacate, then file the effing motion. And McCarthy's use of the expletive was confirmed by other members in the room at the time. Well, it was confirmed today, quite frankly, when we had Andy Ogles on. He said, yeah, the language a little rough. This comes at a time when McCarthy's frustration with the holdouts on the appropriation bills has hit a boiling point. He has publicly expressed frustration with them over the past 3 days. But he apparently, when he said, get on with it, if you want to try to take me out, you go ahead and try, I'm paraphrasing, then apparently there was a standing ovation. Now, I don't think everybody was standing. I'd like to know who was standing, who was not. But, I mean, honestly, it sounds as if by doing this, McCarthy has tried to put these people back in their place. By the way, the idea that the Speaker of the House has done something improper by sending the impeachment inquiry to committee and not requiring a vote on the House. Here's what Nancy Pelosi said back when they were running their own impeachment investigation against Donald Trump in 2019.
As the distinguished chairman said, there's no requirement that we have a vote. And so at this time, we will not be having a vote. And I'm very pleased with the thoughtfulness of our caucus in terms of being supportive of the path that we are on in terms of fairness, in terms of seeking the truth, in terms of upholding the Constitution of the United States.
So she said no vote was needed, and then she was asked about it again.
Speaker McCarthy made the argument the other day that, well, Nancy Pelosi set this precedent. She waited a long time to have a vote on the first impeachment of Donald Trump. You did hold a vote, we should add, but he said you made the rules and he's just following them now by not holding this initial vote for an impeachment inquiry. What do you say to that?
I say that that's hogwash. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I don't know why the press keeps repeating it.
If it weren't for double standards, Democrats would have no standards whatsoever. It is 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
6 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 79 degrees and a sunny, beautiful day on Music Row. Weather forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. The White House, they're not commenting on news. President Biden's son, Hunter, was indicted on felony gun charges. Elizabeth Schulze with more.
The White House has kept its distance from legal developments related to President Biden's son, Hunter, reiterating the independence of the Justice Department and the special counsel investigating the case. The president and first lady have repeatedly said they love Hunter and are proud of his recovery from drug addiction. But Hunter's legal woes are continuing to overshadow the president's daily agenda. News of the indictment broke just a few hours before Biden delivered a major economic address.
And the maximum sentence that Hunter Biden could serve is up to 25 years. January 6th arrest. News 2 says that a Coffee County man was arrested for his alleged role in the Capitol riots 2 years ago. 56-year-old Alan Jennings of Hillsborough attended a Stop the Seal rally near the Washington Monument before later entering the Capitol. Footage shows Jennings chasing retreating police officers with other rioters, and body cam footage shows Jennings pulling out what looked like a knife while pursuing that officer. And since those events on January 6, more than 1,100 people have been charged in nearly all 50 states, including nearly 400 people charged with assaulting or impeding law enforcement, which is a felony crime. And right now in Tennessee, Governor Lee making one thing clear with COVID cases on the rise. There will be no mask or vaccine mandates.
We learned in the last one that the government does not need to tell people how to live their lives with regard to their own personal health. Those are decisions that they need to make. And that's the way it'll be going forward.
And the new booster is expected in health departments and pharmacies as soon as this week. Legislation news. Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles has filed a bill that, if passed, would place sanctions on Chinese officials that are involved in the Mexican fentanyl drug trade. This bill would require the president to provide a list of Chinese officials that are involved in the production of the illegal drug. The president would still have the authority to waive those sanctions if it was for the better of the nation. And it's officially the week of talk show hosts coming back, even though the Hollywood strike continue. Jason Nathanson has the name of the latest host who will cross the picket lines.
Bill Maher, the latest talk show host to announce he's getting back to work as the Hollywood strikes continue, and he's also the latest getting slammed by the guilds. In a statement on social media, Maher writes that his HBO show is coming back without writers because it's been 5 months, and it's time to bring people back to work. He acknowledges that the writers have important issues he sympathizes with, but they're not the only ones, and his staff is struggling. The Writers Guild calls the decision disappointing, noting that Maher is a WGA member and his show will be picketed.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Wilson, and this is The Drive. We're so glad that you're with us here on this September 14th. We got about 54 minutes before the polls close if you want to get out and cast your ballot in the mayoral race or some of the other races that are going on. Dan Mandis will have complete coverage of all the results tomorrow morning on the Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis. You know, that's it. It has his name on the show. You know, it's the Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
So I guess that means he'll have all the latest, right?
He'll have the latest, you know, because we won't be on the air when the final numbers come in. But he'll have all the details in the morning, that's for sure. In the last hour, I like to do cleanup because I'm having a little trouble with my headphones here. Hang on a second. Okay, now that's better. I like to do cleanup in the last hour, and there's so much stuff going on today. I mean, really, honestly, just a cornucopia of breaking stories that I have put some stuff to the side. Let me start off with sort of a recap of what's going on with Hunter Biden, in case you missed it. I mean, people do get into the car at different times of the day, headed home, and they may not have heard the news. Hunter Biden got indicted today. 3 federal gun charges that came from special counsel David Weiss. This charges come after an original plea agreement collapsed in July. Hunter was expected to plead guilty in July to 2 misdemeanor tax counts and then be, given sort of a rap on the knuckles, do some service, or I don't know, go out there and, just, forget about it because it's all done. But then now it looks like he could well do some jail time if convicted on all 3 of these charges. And it seems like these are pretty solid charges, not too hard to prove. But if convicted and given the maximum penalty for each, he could do 25 years behind bars. Nothing from the White House. The president today came out to talk about Bidenomics and how wonderful it is. Sorry, it's hard for me to even say that. But he seemed. I don't think they told him. I'll be honest with you. He was going. He's driving from the White House over to Prince George's County, which is a suburban area just outside of Washington, D.C. And he was to give a speech on Bidenomics. And he appeared to be happy and chipper and cutting up. And I just have a feeling that if they told him his son could do 25 years behind bars, he wouldn't have been happy and chipper and cutting up. I don't think they told him until he got back. I think they keep things from the president of the United States, and that concerns me a great deal. But this will go forward. This has nothing to do with the investigation into his business dealings or anything to do with the Joe Biden when he was vice president. So separate and apart from that, but it is happening. And again, 3 indictments today on those gun charges. We told you yesterday about David Ignatius, a columnist for the Washington Post, a very liberal columnist, and how he had written a column in the Washington Post. It was sort of Democrats talking to Democrats, and he said, you know what? Biden should not run again. We're running out of time to find a replacement. And Ignatius even went a step further, making appearances on MSNBC.
What I say in the column is he has a moment now where he ought to think about whether he should say no to himself about this fundamental question of running again. There's strong feeling in the country, it's bipartisan, that when he takes office at 82, he's too old to serve a 4-year term. 77% of people in an AP poll said that. 69% of Democrats said that. The president needs to think carefully about that, and if he decides that they're wrong, that he wants to go forward, just be clear in his own mind and then clear with the country in saying it straight up.
All right, well, that's David Ignatius. Sorry for the hum in the background. I don't know what was going on there. Apparently a hive of bees were in the room. Joe Biden is being told by the deep state it's time to retire. Now, where's that coming from? Coming from Ignatius. Now, one of the things that I didn't tell you is even though he's a very liberal columnist, Ignatius is long thought to be sort of a mouthpiece for the CIA and the intelligence community. When he speaks, he's written, spy novels and other things as well. And many people believe that when Ignatius speaks, he's sort of carrying forth the water of the intelligence community. This story in the Washington Examiner sort of gets into that. Ignatius states the obvious that Joe is too old for the job, and he says that Biden's age isn't just a Fox News trope. We told you about all that yesterday. But there's another side to Ignatius as well, and this is where things get interesting. For decades, Ignatius has cultivated a close relationship with the intelligence community, particularly the CIA. It's a common knowledge in spy circles that Ignatius has long served as an unofficial CIA spokesman. His post columns form a better guide to what's happening out at Langley than official CIA press releases. When Ignatius comments on intelligence matters, as he frequently does, it's often Langley's leadership that spies call the seventh floor that's doing the talking. This is an open secret in Washington. He writes spy novels. Many of them are thinly veiled retellings of real-life, actual espionage operations. One of the novels was even praised on the CIA official website as a novel but not fiction. That Ignatius has a Langley imprimatur is indicated by his regular appearances with CIA senior officials. So the thought is that he wasn't speaking for himself, but he was speaking for the intelligence community. It was sort of a nudge from the intelligence community. And the way I would read this, if you want to buy into this theory, is we know things. We got enough. I would suggest, for example, some of these phone calls that have, been between Hunter Biden and his dad and maybe other people while he was out there doing business on behalf of Dad. Well, maybe there's some recordings. What you got to understand is that anytime there's a phone call from outside the United States into the United States, it gets recorded. Any incoming conversation from outside the country to the United States is recorded. I'm not making this up. It really is recorded, and there you go. Maybe they've got something. Maybe what they're saying is, if you don't want to get out now, man, it'd be a shame if some of these recordings were to get leaked out. By the way, it's not just our CIA that does that. The other intelligence community probably had Hunter Biden targeted. They probably know a lot as well. They probably got all kinds of phone record, and those could show up somewhere. I've never understood how people don't understand that concept, that if you're outside of the country, dialing into the country, it automatically is scooped up by it's the NSA, the National Security Agency, but that's part of the intelligence community. So was Ignatius, was he sending a message to Biden that, well, you know what, we would like to see you drop out? Maybe it's a way, it's sort of sending him a very subtle message. I'll leave that for others to decide, but it's an interesting idea. Let's see. The calls for to drop Kamala Harris in 2024 are growing as well. Here's Nancy Pelosi being asked about Kamala Harris. Is she the best person for Biden to run with?
President Kamala Harris the best running mate for this president?
He thinks so, and that's what matters. And by the way, she's very politically astute.
That's called, what you just witnessed there is called the pivot. To pivot into something that you don't want to answer the question directly, so you just keep talking, but you pivot directly.
President Kamala Harris the best running mate for this president?
He thinks so, and that's what matters. And by the way, she's very politically astute. I don't think people give her enough credit.
No.
She's, of course, values-based, consistent with the president's values and the rest. And people don't understand, she's politically astute. Why would she be vice president if she were not? But when she was running for attorney general in California, she had 6% in the polls. 6% in the polls. And she politically astutely made her case about why she would be good, did her politics, and became attorney general. So people shouldn't underestimate what Kamala Harris brings to the table.
But do you think she is the best running mate, though?
She's the vice president of the United States. So when people say to me, well, why isn't she doing this or that? I said, because she's the vice president.
Well, hold on a minute. Why is she vice president? because she was chosen by Joe Biden. If you want to look really carefully and make a determination about the judgment that a presidential candidate has, even before they become president, you look at who they choose as their running mate. Because that is the first big decision that you have to make if you want to be president of the United States. Who am I going to run with? Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris. And so, yeah, she's vice president, but I mean, it's only because he chose her. And so I've always thought that's a very bizarre answer.
She's the vice president of the United States. So when people say to me, well, why isn't she doing this or that? I said, because she's the vice president. That's the job description. You don't do that much. You're a source of strength, inspiration, intellectual resource, and the rest. I think she's represented our country very well at home and abroad.
And by the way, Nancy Pelosi was asked a question, well, is there any chance that Joe Biden will not run?
Do you think there's any chance he does not continue running?
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, this president...
David Ignatius recently came out saying he thinks the former president should not run.
Yeah, so that's one.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I've forgotten just how bad that was. All right. Now I don't want to run off listeners, so I'll stop that. What about Joe Manchin? Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia, he is thought to be thinking about becoming an independent. He apparently told some people back in the state, I think the last weekend they were all gathering, that if he ran again in the state of West Virginia as senator, that he would run as an independent. And many people are thinking that he would run as an independent, perhaps for the office of the presidency. And to that end, Joe Manchin is apparently still undecided about his political future, but he's been meeting with his family to discuss what he should do, and apparently consulted with former President Bill Clinton for his perspective. Over the Labor Day weekend, the Washington Post reported the 76-year-old Manchin, man, he doesn't look 76, I'll tell you that, was the subject of several meetings with his family in the Hamptons, one of which was a private sit-down meeting with Clinton. There are reportedly 3 options on the table for the centrist senator. These include launching a West Virginia re-election campaign, but as an independent, joining the No Labels to run for president on a third-party ticket, or just retiring altogether. One thing for sure, according to the report, is if he chooses to stay in politics, he will probably leave the Democrat Party. And there's another story here in the Daily Caller saying basically the same thing. In other news on Capitol Hill, well, let's just save that for just a moment. I'll just say right now, it's 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. D.T. McCall, man, what a good company. Been around for more than 100 years. And you know what? You don't get to last that long in the world of business if you don't have a good reputation for treating people right. And I think the folks at D.T. McCall's have that reputation. And so if you need furniture, if you need appliances, if you need a mower, you need gun safes, whatever it is you need for your house, you need to go to D.T. McCall and Sons. I'm telling you, 5 convenient locations in the Middle Tennessee area. Ranked as one of the best companies for selling Cub Cadet mowers in the whole United States. By the way, I love my Cub Cadet mower. It's one of my favorite things, and I got it at D.T. McCall's. So, here's the thing. If you are looking for furniture, if you're looking for appliances, don't play around with the big box stores. They're going to play games with you about the price. They'll give you a price, and you'll think it's a pretty good price, but then they add a bunch of charges on. At D.T. McCall's, they'll give you a real price, and it'll be a good price, but they also will include delivery, setup, haul away. They're not going to monkey around with the numbers, and you'll be well pleased with all of that. Again, and one of the things they do in D.T. McCall's that I think is a good thing is that they try to sell products that are made and manufactured in Middle Tennessee. Try to keep your dollars local, right? New England furniture, not made in New England at all. Made it in Tennessee. So, reach out to the folks over at D.T. McCall's the next time you need furniture, appliances, whatever you need for your house. 5 convenient locations. Learn more by going to their website, dtmccalls.com. 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. Glad you're with us on the drive. James Comer says that he has some leads on tracing a $10 million bribe that many believe Biden allegedly accepted. This is documented on the FBI 1023 form that was obtained and been the topic of much discussion. A confidential FBI informant told the Bureau that Mykola Zlochevsky, the head of Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company where Hunter Biden sat on the board, had allegedly claimed that he funneled $5 million to Joe Biden when he was vice president and $5 million to Hunter Biden in an alleged exchange for pressuring the Ukrainian government to fire Viktor Shokin, the country's lead prosecutor who was investigating Burisma. When asked about this last night on Hannity, Comer said, we do have leads on that. We believe and suspect there were offshore accounts. And then he stopped. Just a little bit short of giving any elaboration, saying, that's something we'll discuss a bit later. Wow. By the way, an IRS whistleblower has provided more documentation to Congress that boosts his credibility and raises real questions about things that are being said by the Department of Justice. This is the guy Shapley. His handwritten notes bolster his earlier testimony and debunk an FBI agent's counterclaim that Weiss had not said that he lacked authority to charge Hunter Biden. So he's got more documentations. I mean, every time somebody tries to knock down one of these whistleblowers, the whistleblowers just come up with more documents saying, well, that's not true, and here's the proof of it. The whistleblowers are good, patriotic Americans, I believe. And there's that. By the way, Kevin McCarthy stopped in the hallway, asked about the investigation, what they call an impeachment inquiry. It's not an impeachment. It's the beginning of research to decide whether there should be an impeachment. And a reporter, tried to take him to task for that. And listen how brilliantly McCarthy dispatches this reporter.
Congressman Issa came out and said that both Chairman Jordan and Comer were not able to present anything that was an impeachable offense at this point. Is that an assessment that you share?
Impeachment inquiry is not impeachment. So what impeachment inquiry is to do is to get answers to questions. Are you concerned about all the stuff that was just recently learned? Do you have any concern? Have you asked the White House any questions? Yes. Okay. Do you believe the president lied to the American public when he said he'd never talked to his son about business dealings? Yes or no? It's all right. You can't answer that? Do you believe when they said the president went on conference calls? Do you believe that happened?
That's what the testimony
says. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe the president went to Cafe Milano and had dinner with the clients of Hunter Biden, who believes he got those clients because he was selling the brand?
That's what the testimony
Okay. Do you believe Hunter Biden, when you saw the video of him driving a Porsche, that he got $143,000 to buy that Porsche the next day? Do you believe the $3 million from the Russian oligarch that was transferred to the shell companies that the Bidens controlled after the dinner from Cafe Milano took place? Okay, then I go back. Do you think the president lied when he said
an impeachable is lying and impeachable?
Well, you want to know. I'm not saying impeachment. All I'm saying is I would like to know answers to these questions. The American public like to know, and that's what impeachment inquiry provides.
That brilliant turning it on the reporter. One of the things, if you want to shut up a reporter very quickly, ask them questions. They hate that. It's a very effective technique, and McCarthy had this woman just ripped to shreds in a matter of seconds. She was agreeing with him on everything. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? Well, that is the testimony. Well, do you believe this? Yeah, well, that is the testimony. Well, then, I bring it back to you. Well, anyway, good stuff there. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, if you have the desire to have gold or silver added to your portfolio, you should listen up. It's Brian Wilson for the Nashville Golden Coin. If you're looking to buy real, actual stuff you can hold in your hand, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's a place I recommend. You're going to get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. They also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I brought in a few silver coins I had in a shoebox buried in my sock drawer, and it turned out to be worth $1,600. Whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, why don't you schedule a one-on-one consultation today? Go to NashvilleGoldenCoin.com, NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. You'll be glad that you did. It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Good evening. I'm Brian, and you're listening to The Drive. You've got just a few more minutes if you have not voted and you want to try to squeeze in and do it. Polls close at 7 in Davidson County, Nashville, and around the area. We have a bunch of people, a lot of races to be decided in these runoff elections. Today's the day, and you got about, just a few minutes to cast your ballot. I think the plan, I think the way it works most places is if you're in line at 7, they'll take care of you. But they'll stop. They'll put somebody at the end of the line. They won't let anybody else get in line after 7 o'clock. A judge has rejected a request to try all of Trump Georgia defendants together next month. Now, this was widely expected. This prosecutor, this district attorney, Fannie Willis, had been going in there and saying, we got like all the 18, 19 defendants here. Let's just try them all at once. And by the way, let's get going on it. The Judge McAfee, Scott McAfee is his name, issued a ruling saying, no, you cannot try these people together. So what this really means for as far as President Trump is concerned is he will not be tried in October. alongside at least 2 of his co-defendants who invoked their right to a speedy trial. I hope that they get the speedy trial going and that they show what a really weak case this is. It marks a major blow for DA Fannie Willis, who had repeatedly urged McAfee to keep the defendants together and try them all at the same time. Though McAfee did not set a trial date for Trump, the ruling that he gave sets a motions deadline of December 1st. Now, what that means is by December 1st, you have to file all of your motions that you want to hear before the judge. Remember, I told you, pretrial motions, a lot of this stuff is going to get thrown out in pretrial motions. The things that she alleges are so badly backed up here that I feel that the Scott McAfee, the judge, is going to throw a lot of these things out. So the case, as it's been laid out, will be thinned a great deal. I'm not sure how much of it will remain standing. And if you're a good attorney in your pretrial motions, you get it all thrown out. But the deadline just to file the motions is December 1st. Then you got to hear the motions. So it's not going to happen this year. It's going to happen sometime next year. And it seems very likely to me that the Trump team can kick this down the old path, kick the can down the road, and we're not going to have anything at least in this particular case, anytime soon. He's looking to delay all 4 criminal cases and has said repeatedly, I could not possibly be ready by October, and I don't think he'll be ready by December either. So there you go. This story concerns me a great deal. We haven't talked a lot about it today, but Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody on Tuesday published an internal Border Patrol email that her office somehow obtained that provides guidelines to release foreign nationals being held at Customs and Border Patrol processing centers because they are at or near full capacity. At full capacity or maybe they're already over capacity. President Joe Biden and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas have become so brazen that they are now implementing a mass release quota for immigrants surging into our country. As a federal judge already recognized, these releases are unlawful, yet the Biden administration, according to this email, is ordering the Border Patrol to release even more immigrants into the interior of the country. Despite Mayorkas' claim that the border is closed and secure, a record number of people are being processed, it's up. It's not down, it's up. As a result, processing centers where individuals, some families, and unaccompanied minors are held within a certain time frame as they are processed to be released into or removed from the country are at capacity. And with the majority of agents pulled from the field tasked with processing record numbers of people, officials have expressed concerns to the center square that an unknown number of criminals are illegally entering the undetected between ports of entry. Wow. They've got too many. They're just going to mass release them. And we talked to you yesterday about how the drug problem that comes from the border chaos is impacting the city of Nashville and Davidson County. The worst drug overdose problem, second worst drug overdose problem in the whole United States, right behind the city of Baltimore. So if you think this doesn't impact you, what happens on the border doesn't impact your life, you are really, really wrong. Also on the issue of illegal immigration, a federal judge in Texas on Wednesday ruled again that the federal government's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, known as DACA, is illegal. These are the Dreamers. He said it's the second time a federal judge has said it's illegal, but he did stop from taking action to remove protections for the hundreds of thousands of young immigrants now shielded under DACA. Under the program, those people have been protected from deportation, granted work authorization over the past 11 years. This all come from the Obama administration. U.S. District Judge Andrew Hannon issued the latest ruling, previously found that DACA was unlawful in 2021. So DACA, not legal, but, apparently the legal system is not doing enough to try to stop this mess. And that's very troubling indeed. It covers about 600,000 young adults, commonly referred to the Dreamers, who were illegally brought to the United States as children. The Obama administration, we're still dealing with the rulings of the Obama administration with regard to this, and judges have said, no, it's illegal. Okay, well, let's stop it. No. Come on. Come on, man. Tennessee man gets more than 6 years in prison for attacking the Capitol Police on January 6th. This is about Joseph Padilla, according to Channel 5, was just sentenced to one of the harshest penalties for any Tennessean who stormed the nation's Capitol on January 6th, but it's less than half of what prosecutors had recommended. Joseph Padilla of Cleveland, Tennessee, faced 14 years in prison after being convicted on 10 counts, including assaulting an officer while trying to force his way into the Capitol. Padilla was sentenced to instead 6.5 years in prison by Judge John D. Bates. Not clear why Bates chose a much lighter sentence, but we do know at one point he acknowledged Padilla's military service within the Army and his remorse about having participated in the events of January 6th. CBS reports that Bates did say, however, that Padilla was one of the most aggressive rioters at the barricade. Prosecutors say it wasn't the shoving match at the barricades that caught their attention. They say Padilla's actions before, during, and after left a lasting impression worthy of substantial prison time. Days before Padilla left for D.C., he left comments on a far-right social media site telling people that my final line is Biden holding his hand up at his inauguration. And that it's the cartridge box for me is what he wrote. Well, he got 6.5 years. Joseph Padilla had faced as many as 14 years, according to the report in Channel 5. Glad to see this. I said the other day, I wish the governor would come out and say something about it. I don't know if he heard me or if he just decided on his own, but one way or the other, I'm happy to see it. The new COVID booster shots will be ready this week, but virus-related hospitalizations already increasing. Governor Lee says coronavirus mandates will not be making a comeback. That's not making a comeback. There you go. I mean, they're trying. I mean, apparently I've heard Vanderbilt's masking up already. I've heard that. But apparently the governor says, I'm planning to make sure that Tennesseans do what they want to do, but there'll not be any mandates. There'll be no vaccine mandates. There'll be no mask mandates. We learned in the last one that the government does not need to tell people how to live their lives with regard to their own personal health. Those are decisions that they need to make, and that's the way it's going to be going forward. The new booster is expected in health departments and pharmacies soon. However, if you currently have COVID or recently received a booster, doctors recommend you wait 2 to 3 months for receiving the new one. I don't know. I'm not going for the booster. You do what you want to do. Talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on the radio. But I will say this, that, you need to make these decisions that are right for you. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not taking the booster. And I'm glad to see the governor do this. I will say that, when the whole COVID thing started, the governor, we didn't know what we were dealing with. We honestly did not know in the early going. Let's be honest about it. We didn't know what we didn't know. And so out of an abundance of caution, they did shut things down, and they did things that, in retrospect, really turned out to be bad ideas. And the governor let up on that as soon as it became clear that, the onerous burden this was causing and how it was shutting down our economy, and it was taking people and putting them out of work, etc. And so I think the governor, I give him credit for having figured it out before, for example, John Cooper did. John Cooper kept this town locked down way more than it needed to be locked down until one day, apparently, somebody came to him and said, you're very unpopular with this. And then immediately, well, we're done with this. You can go back to sitting in restaurants wherever you want to sit. You can go back to honky-tonking and going to the bars. We're not going to keep them shut down anymore. I mean, his as soon as I think he realized how politically unpopular it had become, I think he folded like a cheap suit. But how long did he keep businesses closed? I mean, there's some businesses that never recovered because of the shutdowns that Mayor Cooper imposed in the city of Nashville. And on a lighter note, here's this. Country star Hank Williams Jr., Bocephus, married his longtime friend Brandy Saturday in an intimate wedding in Alabama, just days after the couple announced their engagement. The statement confirming the couple's nuptials was released on social media Monday. Please congratulate Mr. and Mrs. Hank Williams Jr. Hank and Brandy married on September 9th at Enron Baptist Church in Banks, Alabama, in front of a small group of family and friends. A reception followed in Troy, Alabama. They wrote to the 74-year-old star's official Facebook page. The statement went on to provide some background information about the couple and the very special bond that they carry. They'd gotten engaged earlier this year on Mother's Day. The newly engaged outlaw country music and Southern rock legend Hank Williams Jr., alongside his beautiful and lovely, and she's a very beautiful woman, Brandy. The post captions read alongside a happy photo of the pair. They had kept their relationship largely out of the spotlight until recently. The famous country singer said goodbye to his late wife, Mary Jane Thomas. She died due to surgical complications in March of 2022. The couple was married for 35 years. And there's no further details about the wedding have been released to the public, but Bocephus has remarried, and we wish them only the best. I mean, that's good news. I like that. By the way, John Rich has got an album out, and he's apparently, it didn't get a very good review from the folks over at Rolling Stone.
Surprise, surprise.
Are you shocked, stunned, and amazed at that?
No.
No. And apparently he said in no uncertain terms, Rolling Stone can just go pound sand as far as I'm concerned. Is that it?
That's it.
We'll call it. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Everseal, what is it? Well, it's a sealant for your exterior wood and concrete. That's putting it simply, but there's a lot more to this story. The technology has actually been around for ages in industrial applications, but the folks at Everseal figured out how to provide this permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and business owners could actually afford. Now, here's how it starts. They come in and they do a deep cleaning. They make your wood and concrete look as new as it possibly can look. And then they add their patented sealant. It doesn't just lay on the top of the product. It becomes a permanent part. It soaks in and becomes a part of the wood and concrete and will prevent any further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Now, you think about it. How many times in the course of your life will you seal your deck? I mean, a lot of people do it every year. Some people do it every other year. What if you didn't have to do it for 30 to 50 years? What if you could guarantee that, that deck would never deteriorate for 30 to 50 years if you used this product, Everseal? Well, it's a great idea. Well, you can see how much time and money you could save. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, why don't you reach out to my friend Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal? Here's the number, 844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. And go learn more at their website, ever-seal.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.